I was dying to get on, so I thought I'll interrupt my own intro there. But, time to get started. Tasty debate. Very apt debate. I mean, this is where it's all happening, isn't it? Never mind talking about trailers. We'll talk about trailers tonight. Don't you worry. Don't need to go anywhere else. Don't need to go any other stream. We're talking about latest news. We're talking about the trailers. We're talking about Stephen Moffat coming back. Don't you worry. You get yourself buckled in. We're on the Sense for Your orbit, and we really want to get going on that one. So, I need to bring in my panelists first. Otherwise, there's kind of there's no show, is there really? So if I can just remember that I'm not always maximized. There we go. And Jeremy, look, he's very, you see, he's punching out on the latest news there.
Vivian Times.
Well, it's very important. And and there's John coming in as well. Good to see you. I'm not going to put an embarrassing shot up today, John.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And we've got Terry from the good old USA. Now, I'm going to be very careful tonight. We're obviously debating and our big, massive debate about is Doctor Who becoming Americanized or more American than British? So I'm going to have a 4-4 panel. Don't you worry. And to make sure we're evening up the numbers, we've got timescales back. Hello.
Hello.
And since you can all count, here we've got Brandon, another American. We're now scoring 3-3, and the Americans are above the British. I'm not happy about this, so we need to bring in Cinnamon from Middlesbrough. So it's 4-3 to the Brits. Hiya, Cinnamon.
It's all right. If it need be, we can go to penalties. Who will win?
Yeah, let's have killer penalties. And to even the numbers, we've got Michelle.
Americans are probably here thinking, what's the penalty?
So hiya, Michelle.
Hi.
Now, obviously, we're here for a reason, and we're here to talk about our love of Doctor Who. We're here to talk about the latest news and certain things that have been going on in the whole Who-niverse. So I want to get started. I've got loads to do, so I really can't waste time. Hold on. You see, I'm trying to work out why we've had a space stock already. As you know, I have auditions for companions on this show. You might think I've got 7 tonight, but, extras in the studio to help me. So who have we got tonight? Because it's our American show. Let's have a look. Oh, she looks the same as everyone else. Hello. Who are you?
Hi,
Oh, she's trying to be she's as bad as me doing dudes today. So, yes. And who are you? Because I'm trying to do an American show, and I'm auditioning for companions.
I'm Perry Brown. You can call me Papa Gillian.
Yeah, and you're shouting as well. Have you got a problem? Are you nervous? I mean, are we? So, Purple Gillian Brown, you weren't even a real American.
Listen, do you need an American companion or what?
Well, yeah, but we don't want a 4-1. I'm sure if I say Americans, they'd say, "Can we have a real American accent?" Hint, hint. And Perry, you're from Britain. So what makes you so special to be a companion, apart from your faults?
I can face a firing squad.
Yeah, well, so can I. I've had trolls on here, yeah?
A marriage with King Acarnas.
Well, don't spit feathers over it. Wait a minute, she did turn into a bird.
And I'm very good at botany.
Yeah, well, I get hay fever, so bog off. Clear off. I get hay fever. I don't want botanists on the show. Dear God. Right. Have we got anybody else coming from America? Because our American show is quite key on this. Hello? Oh, she looks the same as before. Genius, isn't it? Right.
Oh, man, I'm a different person.
Yeah, we're all different. Identity crisis here. Right, let me just say, right, get on with it while my bathtub works. We're rock and rolling the space tub here. Right, so who are you? I'm auditioning for companions. You better be American.
I'm Dr. Grace Holloway.
Oh, Dr. Grace from the American movie.
Yes.
Sorry. And why would you be a good companion, Grace?
Because I'm a cardiologist in a San Francisco hospital.
Oh, you were so good. The last time I looked, you killed Sylvester McCoy's doctor.
That wasn't my fault.
Well,
I didn't know it was an alien, did I?
I call it negligence, love. There'll be a suing claim soon. I'm amazed he hasn't done litigation. Go on then.
Listen, I'm a good kisser as well.
Yeah, well, excuse me. We want no hanky-panky in the TARDIS. This might be one of the problems we're going to discuss. Right, space shuttle, clear off. I'm not recruiting these. I've got standards. So if you don't mind, that's the end of them.
I'm a real American.
real American. We don't just take anybody. We're not into tokenism on this show. Excuse me.
Well, if Russell believes that only gay people can play gay characters, then it's only fitting, right, that Americans play American roles. You know?
Well, I'm sure the Americans. If I asked the Americans here, which out of the two did you prefer, Perry or Grace Holloway?
Well, Perry.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even the real deal.
Well,
Well, well, I did mention that I'd had people criticising. They've been criticising our thumbnail today and saying, "Oh, you know, if you're going to do a show about America," and so basically, I'll have to get it right. So basically, because we're doing a big debate, and I want everybody in the thread and here very aware of how we're going to run this. I need to kind of get us in the tone. So hold with me for a second, please. It's our Sense for Air Sunday sermon.
Sorry, I got my.
Well, lots to say. Now, if we're going to do a debate about Americanization of Doctor Who, let's get back to the brass tacks. 99% of Doctor Who's charm originally really was the good stories, good performances, its Britishness. The iconic police box alone screams Britishness. But when I heard the Changes song by David Bowie echoing in my ear from the trailer, it's obvious things will change, whether in the plot or the character of the Doctor or in the tone or style of the show. Not necessarily meaning change is bad, but it means it's an apt moment. A moment too soon, as old 60 Doctor would say, to debate and discuss whether some change is good for Doctor Who, all change is good and beneficial, or some elements, we will debate that. I mean, Doctor Who's always changed. Come on, regenerations, the Time Lord's introduction, Gallifrey being invented, the Matrix, the Time War. The TARDIS changes all the blooming time. The companions come and go, cast changes, eras, schedules, length of episodes, producers and writers. So change has clearly aided its longevity as a program. What I guess we should look at tonight, as we see if the show is becoming Americanized or Marvelized or Disneyfied or just modernized, is whether this is promising for the show, whether it feels like we are facing revolution, not evolution. I mean, I think change is fine as long as it brings fans with them and not excluding them, includes them, involves them, explains to them, not dismisses them or lectures them. But the trailer slogan said everything is possible. And with Doctor Who, that is so true. And so, panel, let's start with our first topic. If I can just minimize myself. Can't get an ego problem here. But, I'll give it to timescales instead. There you go. So, we've got ourselves ready. We've had our Sunday moment. You know, we're going to be very open-minded, as I said to people on Facebook today, etc. You know, we're not just going to judge here. We are going to explain and discuss all the way through. So let's go around the panel once first. Just a quickie, just a quick synopsis of where you stand at the moment. So I'll start at the top with timescales. Do you just sense from the trailer, from the news, from anything, or from your viewing of Doctor Who over the years, do you just sense it's becoming more Americanized or not? Just a headline.
You know, I've given this some really deep thought yesterday for about 5 minutes, and what I concluded was that I don't know. And the reason being is that with me being American, born and raised here, I don't know if I could actually detect if Doctor Who was becoming more Americanized. Now, I think that it did more American filming locations, or locations that looked like that they were in America, but I don't.
Now, you've just cut out a few times, timescale, so I'll wait. Brandon? Okay. We might have to look at your time lag a little bit. So he was cutting out their timescales. Brandon, what would you say as your headline? Where do you stand on this?
Hick Southerner sides against his own people
in Doctor Who debate.
Yes.
Cinnamon, Cinnamon, where do you stand on this?
I'm trying to be balanced. I think balance is
Well,
always
that's good.
important, and I think, you know, and I think I get. I mean, I think Greg made a good point about, you know, if you're born and raised American, you absorb American every day, and then if you get something that might be perceived as American, would you really notice the difference? Whereas I have a similar thing to that, because I was watching it and I do get that sort of Disney-fied. I sense like it. Watching the trailer, as much as I enjoyed a lot of it, it did seem American to me. It just seemed different to the sort of trailers that we had got before.
Now, what I will say, what I will say to
maybe go ahead.
Yeah, what I will say, to be fair, for people who are listening, is this is going to be a big debate, and we're not going to, as you can see, we're open-minded. I'm open-minded to this, but we will exploit it. So just like Cinnamon's saying, it feels Disney-fied. I'll ask him what that means later. We'll all discuss whether that's the issue. And actually, is that a bad thing? You know, the point is, just because I'm asking the question doesn't mean I'm saying if it's American, it's bad. I'm just saying, does it seem American? That's the issue. So we're going to be very open-minded to it, okay? So, Terry, where do you stand on this?
I think they're leaning towards grabbing more American market, and they want to be familiar to the Americans. So they're styling it to be more American.
Right. Got you. Thanks for being concise, Jeremy.
Not too overtly at the moment. I think it was sort of getting a little bit more Americanized when Perry came in the 1980s. You could see it was just leaning a bit there. But there's no cloister bell ringing at the moment to say that it's going to be fully American.
Okay.
Unless the BBC want to sell it to Disney completely, the whole lot.
Cherish the
Becomes
thought.
then a whole Disney product.
No.
Yeah. John?
I think it is. I think, sadly, that we're going to get to a point where they're going to be chasing this mythical missing audience numbers and they'll sacrifice the regular viewers at the expense of trying to find that isn't there or was never there. But it all comes back to me is, you know, it could be Americanized, it could be British, it could be Albanian, but as long as the scripts are good, as long as the stories are good, I'll tune into it, you know. And yesterday's trailer, I'll be honest, I was out after the 60th, but, you know, it interested me after that trailer yesterday, and I want to see it and check it out. So, you know, it's done its job in the last 24 hours for me.
Okay, straight to Michelle.
The answer is yes and no. It'll always have a British cast and a writer, so it'll always stay British as core. But yes, it is becoming Americanized to a certain degree, because Disney has put an expectation that they're going to get something back in return for giving them all this money. And if that's an American audience, then that's a return for their investment.
Right. Well, I won't bite on anything at the moment because this is our opening gambit. But I'll bring in JWC reviews. It seems to be more stylish than of substance, with less emphasis on serious drama, more cinematic, less heavy in terms of tone. Could almost be made by MTV. We will go into this. Like I said, this is our opening gambit. And I'm actually not going to give my opinion too much yet, because I have to say I'm all over the shop as well, Michelle. And I don't know if saying American is a bad thing either, because a lot of American TV programs have a successful formula. So there's a lot to talk about. But we're going to kind of dovetail the news with the debate, because, to be honest, this debate is happening now because of the trailer that we've just mentioned. So, of course, the first item we need to talk about really is actually... so I always put on the wrong one. It's classic of me, isn't it? Got all my little screens here, and then it plays with timescales. Yes, It was the trailer that came out. Now, we're not going to go over, as in, I'm not going to show you every frame by frame, because, of course, that's what we did with my friends yesterday. And we had some amazing theories. We came up with loads of stuff. Please tune into that, because I know YouTube is full of streams talking about the trailers, but we had some interesting ones, I tell you. I do think that's Jodie Whittaker. I do think maybe the monk's returning. I tell you what, I think there's some. We came up with some interesting theories about how this narrative arc will work. So please have a look at that. It's still obviously there, of course it is. So there was the news just the other day. The trailer is the news. You can't say there's any other news out there. So basically, I'm not going to go around the panel each time, because that would bore the audience and it would bore everybody else, because it gets predictable. So I will try and manage. If I kind of wave my hand like a teacher or something, please just let me come in. But the point is, I just want it to be a bit more kind of fluid, because some will have strong opinions on various things and some won't. So basically, in essence, the trailer's out there. John mentioned the trailer. I'll just put my little bit in first, because I may not get a chance again in this round. But basically, the trailer to me had an essence of, yes, as JWC says, I thought there was a change of tone. I had nothing to see that worried me, but I had lots of things to say, right, I think Doctor Who's changing. I think Doctor Who's going to have a different vibe. It's obviously going in a different direction, i.e. fantasy. And actually, in our review of the trailer, I actually thought that might be a clever idea for a year or two, because actually it may not affect anything. But yeah, but I did see the Disney or the American influence. I thought I just got a sense of it, the sense of scale, which it might be good, but I don't know if the British element of Doctor Who is a village is attacked. You know, I mean, there's something like that. So I don't know. I'm really toying with this. So having seen the trailer, I assume everybody has. You know, how did you feel when you saw it? I'll pull one or two people in, but then please then interrupt and just join in, please. All right, I'll ask the first one in. Brandon, you saw the trailer. You talked to me yesterday about it. You've had a good think about it. So what are your thoughts now on the Americanization of Doctor Who, or no, regarding the trailer?
Well, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what does it mean? I wanted to ask you that question. Like, what do you, when you say American, what do you mean to you, Brendan? What does that mean? If something's becoming Americanized, what would be your way to describe it?
Right.
Good question.
I'm not trying to take your thing over, but I've been sitting here wanting to ask you for the whole time.
I was going to ask that.
Well, here we go. I am an ex-teacher after all, so it's a good question. Thanks for asking it, because I actually have a slide already. So here it is.
Brendan's prepared.
Take notes.
Yeah. Yes, don't think I just turn up, you know. So the Americanization of Doctor, I'm not going to read these all out. I'm assuming people can see them, but I'll mention, say, 3 of them just to help Brandon out here. So the showrunner role in itself, of course, is very American. We normally just have a producer, and that change might be something. The big narrative arc of storytelling is more American. It's not, and it did come from America, whether you say it's Buffy or way before that. And I suppose the emotional involvement of the Doctor, from being asexual to something different, there's a few of them. There's loads there, and I'm going to keep referring to this slide now through the evening, so that our thread can join in, and so obviously can our panel on various things, because we're going to be very fair. It was a good question, Brandon, because I asked it myself. So does that help?
They call me the stream meddler. Just give me, all right, and I'm going to finally answer your question, but just give me, if I had to ask you to tell me in 1 or 2 sentences, what does it mean? What is American to you? Like what's the difference between being American or British, just in like 1 or 2 sentences?
Okay, I'll try and do 2 sentences. I'm an English teacher, so that's killer. But here's the first long sentence. I will say Americanization to me, in my kind of version of things, is, in TV terms, it's done more like formula. Drama by formula. So America is successful at TVs and movies, can't be knocked, but they do find Hollywood has a formula. And sometimes when Americans see a very successful TV franchise, it's copied and duplicated. Whereas Doctor Who stood out a mile as so different. So there's one answer. So if it's done by formula, the other one is the when I say the depth of tone, I think a lot of American programs focus on action and plot
More shallow.
rather than characterization. So that's
okay.
my thoughts. I might be wrong, but what do you think now, Brandon?
All right, so I'm done stream meddling now. I have been thinking about that question for 2 hours, Brendan. So when I saw the trailer, I mean, we'll touch on it more later. Just my quick response would be, it was a lot of razzle dazzle, and I'm scared there won't be any substance. That was my initial reaction.
Okay, now I know I'm going to look as though sometimes I'm running this channel too much, and I don't want to do that. So please come in on anything Brandon said or I said. There's been plenty
Also,
to chew on already.
We don't put the U in color.
Yeah, straight up. Theaters ER. Theaters ER.
Yeah, I would say Brandon's right about that. There is a lot of razzle dazzle, and I think you could argue, going back to RTD's original run, there was a lot of that razzle dazzle as well, because he'd do and this was always my criticism of the 45-minute to an hour format of the episodes, whereby the original run of Doctor Who, you had a few episodes that fleshed out that story, whereas you have the quick beginning, middle, and end in those hour formats. So the finale of the episode is wrapped up within about 5 or 10 minutes, unless you spread it to a 2 or 3-parter, and that's something that I agree would be hot. There is a lot of razzle dazzle, and you want that substance in the new series. And going back to what you were saying, Brendan, about the formula, I do think that there's a lot of more on the American networks and shows. You have a lot more executives who want to get their fingers in a lot more pies. So, and I will give you an example of that. Years ago, Star Trek Enterprise, the producers on it, the producers on it, they said the executives called them into a meeting and basically said, right, why don't we put a band of the week in real life on the bridge of the Enterprise? And they just looked at each other and looked at them and said, because the Enterprise is in deep space. How are you going to get the band there every week? But these people were just thinking of, what can we do to make some more money? What can we do to boost it up? And that's, I think, what you get more in the US than you do in the UK. So that's something that you're seeing a lot more. And I've already seen things already, that make me think that Disney execs are meddling in Doctor Who.
One thing we did say, and I'll keep it short, just to bring people in from yesterday if they didn't see our stream, was the TARDIS landing at unit headquarters with the sparks. I felt it was more like a space shuttle going on the Enterprise, and I didn't know if that was introducing it to people who didn't understand Doctor Who as a concept with the materialization. So basically, instead, you have it as a spaceship, which I think makes it less magical in one way. Anyway, I've said an awful lot. Terry, where do you stand on this? Have you seen the trailer, Terry?
I watched it in the last couple hours. Yeah, it's big. They want you to know it's going to be big. We have a world with dinosaurs. I mean, you don't get any bigger than that.
Yeah. Jurassic Park.
Don't step on the butterfly.
Yeah. Well, as I said, RTD has to plunder another sci-fi story or comic strip story. He can't do his own. So, yes, I'm just pick up on the thread. You've all been very polite at the moment. It's a big panel, and you're not used to me not saying da. So I know that was a problem with the Enterprises, PD Rich. It was in a time where executives had way too much power.
And I think it's carried on. I think it's carried on from there.
Exactly.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Gotten worse.
Yeah. Rachel, hiya, Rachel. Thanks for joining us. The thing is, RTD has since lived in America, so he may have definitely picked up more of an American style. And as we said earlier, that doesn't mean it's bad or good. And I know Rachel's not saying that either. Cybermat strikes in Australia. American shows have. Now, I'm not saying a word here. Usually have had more money, less intelligence.
He's right. As an American, he's right. It's honest.
I'm keeping out of it. JWC, catering, have I said this one? No, catering in style and format to an American audience, episode length, narrative arc, romance between the main protagonists, great looking but not deep. You saw I mentioned a bit of that earlier.
All the girls are pretty.
Yeah. Jeremy.
Well, the rumor is Disney wants a romance, and RTD is kind of fighting back, or was fighting back on that, and is saying, "Oh, what are we doing? Let's do it in the second season."
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's Jeremy. Go on.
The aspect I'm not keen on is if they do it like Mary Poppins, you know, where you get the scene and then all of a sudden they burst into song, and I find that kind of like that is just takes me out of it
Yeah.
very much.
Well, as everybody's thinking about where we go with this debate, I'm going to nominate. I'll put on the screen some of our arguments here about what is Americanization, what could be the critiques. So I'll show you again just to give you a few ideas. So this is when I'll pull a few out. So showrunner, the tone, the complexity of Doctor Who, or will it be Doctor Who light? The Doctor's characterization. Now, as you're sitting there, panel and thread, there may be some of these that are triggering you to want to discuss. The emotional involvement of the Doctor with his companions, the message, the plot, the focus. Is it canon, or is it going to be retconning any problematic characters? The science, historical authenticity of the old days to more fantastical moral devices now. You can see there, even the costume thing. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
and I cannot just say something. By the way, I cannot just say on costumes and props that I'm going to say it's the Americanization of now. Sorry, JNT, the question mark umbrella, the question marks on Tom Baker's shirt. It was way back. We know that John Nathan Turner, a British producer, not showrunner, was trying to hit the American market, and he tried to kind of commercialize Doctor Who. So while I ask this question, as you know, it's not a critique, and I'm very well aware of the irony that John Nathan Turner started this with his Chicago conventions, you know, and I'm going big over there with Troughton and Pertwee and everything. I'm well aware of that. And, you know, RTD picked up on it again in 2005 with the Battle Riri Time Warrior, Chris Eccleston. We had it in the McGann movie. So, you know, where's everybody triggered regarding their argument and where they stand with this? We'll talk through this tonight and we'll maybe come up with an answer at the end about where we all stand. But there's an awful lot there that could trigger you. And does anybody want to come in on any of these, on where it steers them?
I think it feels it could be a bit more like Doctor Who light, the next series, and that worries me. So it lose some of its character.
And this is when I start to wonder whether, if it's Doctor Who light, it's for a new market that hasn't discovered Doctor Who, so they don't need the complexity and the backstory and all that stuff that we know, and we could do quizzes on it. It's actually to get them to absorb it and get into it. Maybe. I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah, I think also I was going to say that the more you go along, the Doctor is starting to seem more and more like a doctor and more like the guy that's down the road that you bumped into in a pub, you know. And the Doctor was always otherworldly. He wasn't interested in romance, and he just wanted to have adventures in his blue box. And, you know, now you've got that shooty coming out of the TARDIS, you know, where's the loving, as I mentioned yesterday, you know, and it's like, yeah, and it's this, you know, that's not something the Doctor would do. You know, the Doctor is, yes, he's quirky, he's eccentric, but, you know, he wouldn't do that. And I think that's where I find that now they're trying to play to a crowd that have never watched Doctor Who and arguably will probably never watch Doctor Who. So I just hope they bring it back to what it was, really. Bring us the proper Doctor back, you know, eccentric genius.
And I'm going heavy here, so I know I'm talking an awful lot, so it's going to have to back off. But when I made that thread, that slide, one of the points, John, I did make is I have to accept as a 55-year-old that maybe how people view TV has changed, and maybe I'm not with it, because we can discuss streaming, we can discuss length of episodes, we can discuss formula within an episode, and whether that's Americanized or modernized or whatever, maybe how programs are made and who accepts and digests them has changed, and maybe I'm not in that circuit anymore.
Yeah.
Cinnamon?
But toast is.
Yeah, Cinnamon?
I suppose I'd point it more down to like being subjective, because as the youngest person on this panel, you know, I feel fairly similar, or I would agree with a lot of what you said. You know, when I look at it, and that was a good question by Brandon, because it's the question I was going to ask myself. What is American? What do we define as Americanisms? And I guess personally, and it's a hard discussion really, because it is rather subjective. Because what I would define as Americanized, and someone else who is American might say, well, actually, no, I don't. I disagree. But I suppose my interpretation would be bigger, more dramatic, loud. I feel in shows like Peaky Blinders. I couldn't imagine a show like Peaky Blinders being made in American. Obviously, one for the fact that it's set in Birmingham, but notwithstanding that, I just feel like there's less. I just feel like sometimes, and again, it's not a generalized thing. Obviously, American shows are very good at character dramas as well, but I just feel there is more character moments, like soaps. Soaps are very traditionally a very British thing. Coronation Street, EastEnders. Perhaps Americans have got them too, in some degree. I wouldn't know, but again, characters and people, I feel, a slightly more British thing, and I feel action and tense, action scenes and just big overall things that happen. I think Americans excel at that more. So when you say there about, oh, is it just because it's in a different place now? I understand I'm a bit older. Well, it depends, because again, as the youngest person here, 21-year-old, I feel the same way as you, who's older. So it depends really, I suppose.
Just going back to that as well, I agree with what Cinnamon was saying there, but I was just going to say, Brendan, responding to what you said, I've never subscribed to that where we're older, so therefore they've got to make it for someone younger. If the writing is good, if the acting is good, it works for everybody. So don't ever try and dumb down something just to try and get people to understand it. Let them elevate themselves upwards, because you sit in front of Doctor Who, you look at the original run, that was engaging storytelling, and anybody would enjoy it. A kid would sit down and enjoy it. So I think just write clever. That's all you need to do, and people will switch on.
We see, if I use Church on Ruby Road as one example, sorry, Michelle, and I'll bring it to you. Church on Ruby Road, that's the most recent example, so I'm trying to be really fair. I thought that was very light. I mean, me and Jamie call that Jack and the Beanstalk, where he went up to the goblin ship, came back down again, and we added some strange, magical, hocus pocus science fantasy gloves. It really was, to me, very limited. And one more, before I go to Michelle, Star Beast, based on a comic strip, was very light on plot. So you do wonder, Michelle?
Also got to say that we're in the process that we're seeing TV changing in probably one of the fastest ways since its creation, because we are seeing the change from turning terrestrial into streaming and being able to watch a show when everyone wants to. So that leads the questions into, everyone's very concerned about the ratings. Does the BBC care about the ratings anymore? Maybe not, because of the streaming. And so we're adjusting our viewing habits to this new world that has changed the fastest since it was invented, because we've had changes in TV before. We've changed from black and white to color. That wasn't a major affection in how shows were made. We've had even the changing of cable. Now we're seeing streaming and this new world. And I also wonder, I don't think Hollywood knows what the people want anymore. I think they're trying to throw Jello on the wall and see what sticks. We're seeing that here in the United States. Like, I just went and saw the Ghostbusters movie. That is a big movie that would usually be released in May. It's being released in March because they needed to get it out because of the strike. So Hollywood just doesn't know what to do anymore.
So what about, and I'll raise two people from the thread and see who responds in the panel here. So first of all, Crimpline says, the Doctor is usually quieter, sneaking into places, not immediately seeking attention. From the trailer, Shooty's Doctor appears to be the opposite, louder and attention-seeking. Now, I'm not going to say too much, because one of my things there about whether it's Americanized, Disneyfied, is that how far does the Doctor's character change? There was that one I wanted to bring up. And then Melanie Weston here, as long as the characters are believable and the scripts are good, then that should be fine. So we've got people mentioning the characterization, but a believable character, can it be believable and acceptable that our hero character, who's been on the stage TV for 60 years, can change so much in character? Now, I know Colin Baker's Doctor was very different to Peter Davison's, quite dramatically.
Right.
So the answer could maybe be yes, but our thread is obviously bothered about characterization and whether that's a difference. Who wants to pick up on that?
Well, you have a regeneration, don't
I guess
you?
I can. I
Yeah.
think it depends on each Doctor. I think it's a hard one to look at because some people will say, "Oh, that's not very Doctor-like at all," but then you've also got to remember that each Doctor is different. Yes, every incarnation is the same person, obviously, but they're also kind of like different people in the same time. It's passing the baton to somebody else, and not quite in the way that James Bond is, obviously. I just think the core character traits, those core traits, obviously every incarnation have, because when we talk about some being a bit more louder, more boastful, and more egotistical than others, again, I chalk that down to the sixth being more prideful of himself, and the fifth Doctor is kind of really kind of sweet and a bit more mild mannered, and then you get sort of again like 10 or someone like 9. Or actually, no, 8. Sorry, 8. Who's a little bit more, a bit more eccentric, if that's the word, of how he sounds, how he talks. He's a little bit more not pompous, as in like he's full of himself, but he dresses up in Edwardian, so he's a bit more intellectual. And then you go from the 8th Doctor to the 9th Doctor, and they couldn't be further apart from each other. You go from again what you go from the 8th Doctor would appear more educated and a bit more sophisticated, I think is the word I was looking for. And then you go to the 9th Doctor, who was kind of more of a brooding, sort of working class northern bloke, and I can say that as a northern bloke. But they're just so opposite. And then again, you get the 10, who's just sort of a bit more of a vain kind of character. Again, a little bit cool but cocky, but suave. And then you get 11, who's just like a big kid in himself. Well, we talk about, would the Doctor do this or would the Doctor do that? When you put up that comment, actually, I was thinking I've seen him sneak through on the pirate ship or on the Goblin ship, sorry. So he can do it. He just, he opened the trap door and he fell straight down. But I can see why people would say that, though.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that with each regeneration, it's a renewal. And as the 10th Doctor said, same man, new face. But the essence of the Doctor is still there in each one of those incarnations. I would certainly say that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, and certainly from what I've seen at Shooty so far, I don't see anything that makes me think that's the Doctor. But I'm quite happy to eat my words at the end of the season when he's knocked it out of the park. So that could happen. There could be a development through that season, but time will tell, as it always does.
Well, since character came up, and see what everyone else thinks. I mean, let me just trigger you here. There's the question mark I mentioned. That was way back, obviously, in the 1980s.
2 of my favorite things.
The war-torn Doctor, which he has to have baggage. And then, of course, we had Doctor Who in our new era, Daleks in Manhattan. I mean, obviously trying to kind of reach out to that market and actually, represent it. So we had Daleks in Manhattan, just to remind you. We had Matt Smith in a Stetson in The Impossible Astronaut. Surely that was to try and reach out to the American market. And quite successful, actually. Location filming and everything. Then in the Pandorica Opens, you had what I thought was a kind of more American version of the Doctor, where he shouts on Stonehenge. It's a bit very like the movie Gladiator, where he just shouts at his enemies, and he's got that bravado. And this is not the anti-hero I was used to. And yeah, we'll mention the Disney factor in a moment. So on the characterization of the Doctor, there was some really fascinating things about this. Has been going on for a while, and I haven't even mentioned the Paul McGann movie yet. So, when we are talking about, are we worried about the Americanization, whatever that means? What has been evolving in Doctor Who is the character of the Doctor is changing and trying to reach out to a market, it seems to me. Is it changing the Doctor? Is it ruining the Doctor? Or is it working?
It's giving it a different flavour, I think. And I think that enriches the series. But with a movie that was Canadian.
Yeah.
A Canadian project. So,
Yeah, don't blame their crap on us.
I liked it. I thought it was
Do
very good.
Canadians even have sensibility? We're still trying to figure that one out.
And how do you say it? Instead of saying Americanized,
Hey, my family originates from Canada.
And they're the best
What
ones
did
that
they
there
do?
are.
Escape the,
Yeah.
what,
That's a
they're
good
from
one.
Canada. What did they do? Escape the American Revolution?
So
My
Go on,
grandfather
Brandon.
went to Canada and he joined up in the First World War.
Oh wow. Woo.
And then came back over here to live here.
Too cold. Too cold.
And then apologize. We're
Yeah,
so
it
sorry. We're
was.
so sorry.
Too cold. It was. I think that was it. Bought some land over there.
Yeah, it's cold. I've been up there. It is really cold.
Yeah.
But digress. So yeah, I think it enriches the TV series, whether it's American or Canadian or Spanish or French. Or
Okay,
whatever.
Jemmy, I'm going to throw it at you now and see what the panel say. We're sticking on the Doctor's character, so we've got some balance here on whether the Doctor's character's really changed because of all these influences. So if you're mentioning the Paul McGann movie and you were hoping with the Canadian collaboration, kissing, emotional entanglements, are we then?
Well, I mean, the Doctor.
It set a trend, didn't it? The whole kissing thing. It's
yeah.
I think the TV movie, the thing with that movie, and I mean, when you saw it there, you put up screenshots of it there, and I was going to mention, this isn't particularly a new discussion. This isn't the first time that we've ever sat down and thought, is Doctor Who getting a little bit too American? This has been around for, I dare say, decades. It's been really since the late 80s when we saw Perry maybe being involved. But even then, I don't think purely having an American companion made it more American. I think it was a companion who just so happened to be American. But then again, I will suppose maybe that was a thing by J&T to have more appeal there, because we all know he kept popping over there, Comic-Con conventions and stuff. And of course, we got the which did very well here, but not so much there, because general audience of America probably wasn't familiar with this shit a bit much for us.
No.
It is a very law-heavy story. That, I mean, straight away you've got you've got mentioned the Time Lords, you've got the Master being talked about, 13 Lies. It throws a lot at you. In fairness, I will say. So I can feel like, what is this? It's too much at once.
And we didn't have the ability to look it
yeah,
up on
of course,
Wikipedia. You know what I mean? Like,
So does this mean timescales? That
Yeah,
this is
that was very, very at that point.
So if I could just say timescales, does this mean it's acceptable? I'm going to bring in a few points of what you've heard as well. Matt Potty says, out of all the Doctors, I have trouble understanding Shooty. Am I the only one? I know firsthand Americans have issues with accents. I know you've mentioned this with Old Who, but
Right.
basically, I feel as though Shooty's putting on some sort of more globalized version of himself. That's how I think of it. Is the Doctor changing? Is the Shooty Doctor acceptable? And is it looking American?
Well, I'm glad you guys mentioned Canada, and I will answer that question, Brendan.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you guys mentioned Canada, because for people that have not seen it, there's a documentary called Doctor Who Am I, which is made by Matthew Jacobs, who I had the opportunity to interview, him and his assistant Vanessa Ewell, and that documentary there really goes into his view of the 1996 film, which he wrote. And I don't quote him, I don't told me, but he's either Canadian or from Canada. I believe that he lives in California now. And I believe that the 1996 film was also made in Canada. So it kind of makes me wonder, going back to B-Hop's question to you, Brendan, what do you consider to be Americanized? It also makes me wonder if you're including Canada in the Americas. Okay.
Yeah.
And now I have really gone off track. What was the question again?
So it was about Shooty's Doctor seems to be.
I mean, just
playing
as a
certain
side point,
accent.
I'd conflate Americans and Canada just as much. I can't tell the difference between any of you.
Okay.
So
Both
the issue
sound
is
same to
about.
me.
So the issue is about Shooty's accent.
Shooty.
About.
Right.
I mean, we joked about Perry earlier on about playing to the American market and whether she had an acceptable American accent. Do you think they are trying too hard to reach the American market? Do you think Shooty is therefore adapting in that way? You know, do you think his accent will work in America? And basically, as part of this package, we're talking about, are you happy with those pictures at the top there where basically the Doctor seems to be becoming more bogged down in emotional traumas?
Well, I'm happy with the 1996 film, and I believe that the writer of that was very down to earth and did the best that he could to tell a really great story. And I understand that the 96 film was more popular in England than what it was
Yeah.
here. Now,
Yeah.
as far as Shooty's accent, you know, if it is something that is more understandable to me as an American, I'm personally grateful for that, because when I first started watching Doctor Who in the late 70s and the early 80s, I couldn't tell what anybody was saying. And that may sound funny, but Horror of Fang Rock, for example, I could maybe only tell one or two words out of a sentence if I was lucky, and we didn't have subtitles back then. So it was very difficult for me to watch Doctor Who because I couldn't understand the British accents, but then I also couldn't stop watching it. So with the most recent Doctors, Jodie Whittaker, I could understand very well. And with Shooty's Doctor, we haven't seen a whole lot of him yet, but these days I can understand the British accents, and I don't know whether it's because Doctor Who has changed. And we got a comment on the screen here from Rachel. I don't know whether it's because Doctor Who has changed or if I've just been able to learn to understand British accents more. And plus, today we have subtitles. And my wife is Japanese, native speaker Japanese, and we tend to watch television with subtitles on very often. So that also helps me watch Doctor Who because if I can the titles. Now, as far as the Doctor's changing drastically, I think if you were to look at William Hartnell's Doctor and his quiet thoughtfulness and his animation, and then compared to Sylvester McCoy's Doctor, who was very loud. Those are two very completely different Doctors. So because of that, I can't really put my finger on it as to if the Shooty Doctor is to appeal more to Americans. But because of Disney's involvement, it very well could be.
Well, you've mentioned Disney, and to kind of keep the kind of debate kind of structured in that way, can I mention, therefore, for the next few moments, the thread and our panelists will discuss what we see as the Disney factor, whether it's getting Disneyfied, whether that's good or bad, and whether we saw any hints of it. So who would like to start on that one, on the Disney factor? Because, you know, I've got to be fair. We saw certain things changing before Disney got involved. Disney have argued, really, through RTD, that their first real proper involvement was the Church on Ruby Road when they asked for an additional scene. Is that what you're going to refer to, Michelle?
I was going to refer to just what my dad was saying as an American watching the trailer. He's very much seeing the Disney influence of the money and the splash and the over the top and the bigger. Because I mean, immediately he's seen from the beginning of that. Well, the Disney money is paying off. He can see that as a non-Whovian. and because let me just show this. So basically, there was an issue in the Church on Ruby Road. This is the first kind of moment when we talked about the Disneyfication of Doctor Who. And it was all because we had Russell T Davies reassuring us that this wouldn't be a problem, and editorial control, etc., was still with Bad Wolf and himself. But then we got to hear that there was that scene added early on in Church on Ruby Road to introduce Gatwa's Doctor earlier. Now, so that's why we had the snowman falling and all the rest of it. You know, he saved the day.
Good decision, by the way.
Sorry?
I think it was a good decision, by the way. I will say that, you know, again, for balance, you know, I think, you know, when a lot of people think Disney and, you know, instantly go into, you know, a rage-filled panic, but you know, I see it, the way I look at it is that, you know, if I think something's worthy of praise, I will say it, you know, but, you know, I just think, you know,
I would say
the scene in. You know, I think we needed to see the Doctor a little bit earlier because you're there to see the Doctor a little bit more than Ruby, I would say. You know, it's what everyone's itching to see. So I think it was a fairly decent decision.
John?
I would say as soon as Disney were announced, I knew that it was going to be effectively a co-production, and they were going to have a lot of involvement in the show going forward. And it sent a shiver down my spine because from someone who grew up with Star Wars, I cannot stand Disney. And I see exactly the same thing repeating again. And one of the things that drives me mad, and I can see this happening with Doctor Who, is the fact that there's never any consequences. So, main characters you'll never see, and I'll eat my words if it's the case, but you never see them killed off. You never see any of that happening. That's the same with Star Wars now, where you can get poked with a lightsaber and still get up and have a cup of tea, So
the story during the Moffat era. To be fair, I mean, and
yeah.
Concerns, though, but to be fair,
yeah, I agree on that. But I would say you're going to see a lot more of it now, and I think you're going to see a lot more, flashbang wallop.
And will they try to turn Doctor Who into a girl's brand? If they try to turn Star Wars into a girl's brand,
exactly. Yeah, and the format of it reeks of Disney, because the whole 8 episodes that is all done to fit Disney Plus. You look at the Marvel series, you look at the Star Wars series. If they run, generally they're about eight episodes, with a few exceptions now. So
and also, sorry.
Yeah.
Also, in the United States, who was the most popular was during the Matt Smith era, and that was marketed to the teenage girls, college girls. You walk into Hot Topic, everything is Doctor Who, and Hot Topic is primarily a female brand, and they were all after him because he's so dreamy, and it dropped off in the United States because they went into older Doctor. And I remember being on because that's when I came in, and you're seeing the chat boards of he's not cute anymore, he's not handsome, I'm done with the show, and because they didn't understand that the Doctor changes. And let's face it, most of the Doctors have not been Americanized sexy to for American audience.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the British fans know about Hot Topic.
Oh yeah, sorry. Hot Topic is like kind of like Planet, not Poison Planet, kind of like it's a girl stuff. Think of Harry Potter, Hello Kitty. There's some guy stuff, Demon Slayer, anime, goth, Barbie. You'll whatever is big in America, Disney. They'll do. I get a lot of. They're trying to do a lot of Doctor Who dresses. So some of the clothing that I wear here on the show comes from Hot Topic.
Right.
Right. It's a mall. It's a chain store which can be commonly found in malls. And of any stores in America, that's the one that carries more Doctor Who stuff than anything else.
Yeah, and a lot of it's online now too. Yeah, as I said, a lot of the clothing that I wear. Today you actually see me in pink. I usually wear a lot of pink. A lot of my Doctor Who clothing and jewelry comes from Hot Topic.
Right. Sorry, can I just say? So I'll just bring us right on Disney, right? Because the Disney effect, so to speak. It's just because Rachel said a few things. I want to bring them in and see what people have to say, because we have discussed this before in an earlier show, but obviously it comes up now more kind of conveniently because of the trailer and the new series about to start. Rachel here, they are involved. If they're paying, then they will have a say creatively. I've never seen a production company being involved just financially without having a say.
100%.
She also then
I believe that now.
Yeah. Bring the Doctor. It was a good idea. Having the snowman falling in was poorly written. That wasn't Disney's choice. They wanted a new scene. Obviously, it was written by RTD, of course. And just to finish off,
he
with,
chose what the scene
here,
would look like. They recommended bringing him early.
They removed the ultimate threat of the Doctor dying by doing the bi-generation Other Universe, which has so many ramifications. And Sadako 24. At first, I thought Star Wars and Disney would be a good fit, maybe even get it closer to its roots than Lucas had of late. But I wasn't prepared for The Last Jedi. And my issue is, and then I'll shut up again, is Disney sometimes likes to take a cultural appropriation. It's a term used. They'll take The Little Mermaid, Hans Christian Andersen, and they'll ruin the ending to make it nicer. So instead of that woman, that mermaid turned into a woman for the sake of love, she sacrifices that the rest of her life, every step will be painful. they kill that. That's not going to happen. You know,
Okay.
when you see them change cultural stories, then you think they've now got a British setup. And will they be akin to, as John and everybody was starting to say about no deaths? I was mentioning just the other day, wasn't I? I've just finished watching Planet of Evil. There must be about 20 deaths in that. That wouldn't happen now. So, picking up on what Rachel has
Horror
said,
Fan Rock's the same. I think the
Yeah.
only people who survived
Yeah.
that story is the Doctor and Leela. I think that's
yeah,
everyone else dies.
that definitely is the case in Horror
Yeah.
Fan Rock. So, what do people think? Terry, you sat there quietly with showing me your shirt, but the Disney effect. Are you happy with Disney? Has Disney got form? Should we be worried?
Yes, we should be worried. There's going to be musical numbers every season and songs released. You had that with the Gremlin song. It was released before it was aired. So they're going to do that. They're going to break into dance. Jeez.
No, dear God, no.
They will. They will. And they'll be
Very Glee, isn't it?
product
Very
placement.
High School Musical. Glee
You'll
kind
see
of
things
attitude, isn't it?
advertised by their placement.
So, time
Oh
scales,
yeah.
time
So we're
scales,
going
are
to see
you
a can of Coca-Cola on the TARDIS console.
They've only ever seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a lot of these executives, so they think, oh well, you know, this is how it's done now. You know,
But John,
this is.
But John, RTD goes on about Buffy all the blooming
I
time.
know.
He
And it's,
thinks it's the gospel.
you know, but, I mean, I was going to flip it.
It's his reference point,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I was going to flip it actually and say, you know, with this whole Americanization of Doctor Who, you know, from over the pond, I was hoping we might have got Straczynski to come in and produce Doctor Who, because I thought, you know, that's fresh people coming in. It's not the same boys club that it seems to be passed to within that group every few years, and it would just take it in a new direction. But
well, this is where I'm not open-minded with Disney. As Rachel is hinting at there, we should be worried. As Terry said, we should be worried. And I will just add another one, not Little Mermaid. I'm going to say Snow White.
Rumor mill, that movie may not come out. There is, from what I've been hearing, Disney in the last couple of years has been dissatisfied with the bottom line. The boycotting has hurt them. They are not happy about that. I've been hearing rumors that there has been some of the Rachel Zegler comments. I heard rumors that she was brought into the office and chewed out about it. So there may be some moves behind the scenes that we're not aware of changing things. So I say still be very worried. I am optimistic enough. Again, that's my nature to say that we'll see what this next season looks like, and let's see what the next season after that looks like. So I'm on two camps on this one. Be concerned, be very concerned, but also hopeful that there are some people behind the scenes in Disney who are wanting to pull some of the things back. I've heard there's been conversations that the shareholders are furious, and that one of the last shareholder meetings, the CEO got his rear end chewed off for a number of things.
well, they're in a board battle at the moment, aren't they? Because
they are. They're actually
investors. Yeah.
They're running ads on YouTube, on Facebook and YouTube about for the voting. I've never seen Disney run ads reminding the shareholders that it's voting season.
Yeah, I've never seen that in my whole life. Something like that advertised.
I heard that the investors are mad because, again, this was one of the most expensive stocks on the market, and now it was plummeting. The attendance in the Florida parks, particularly, have dropped. I'm not too sure much about California, but I've heard that during peak periods, the Magic Kingdom is a ghost town. So the people with the money are not happy.
So Brandon, sorry, John, for 1 second. Brandon, I'm just going to see all the Americans here. I've heard from a few now, and then Brandon, then timescale. So Brandon, you know, I know we have Disney over here, but it's one of your great institutions over there, to be honest. It's been very successful. So are you worried about the Disney effect on Doctor Who and what it could mean for us? And how would it look if it went... Sorry, my question is it good or bad for Doctor Who? And based on your answer, what do you think could happen with it, you know? And then timescales.
So to me, Disney getting a hold of it, you know, before Disney bought Star Wars and Marvel, Disney, I always grew up with like a girls thing. You know what I mean? Like it was just like Cinderella, Snow White, stuff like that. So, but I think that it's who's running the thing. That's the problem. It's not when you really get down to it. It's not about whether it was Disney's money or not. It's just like the people that did such a great job on Classic Who with very little turned into a whole lot. If you had the right people running stuff, imagine what they could do with these resources. But the unfortunate thing, if it is going to get Americanized, it's I think they needlessly think that they need to dumb things down. And if it could, I don't think it'll end up killing the show off for good or anything, but who knows? It may not last on Disney, but so long, but I think it'll have a negative effect because most of the people that are really interested in watching is people like us, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the people that get offended and all that sort of stuff usually don't they don't usually decide with their dollar like fans like us might, so my fear is that they'll either just completely Americanize it, destroy it, and drive off everybody who's left.
Mm-hmm.
Timescales?
Well, first of all, I'm not really a fan of Disney. And one of the main reasons is that I started to realize the massive similarities between all of their films, where you will have, it starts with a happy story, and then all of a sudden somebody is sick and they might die. And then all of a sudden something magical happens and everything's okay. And then everyone starts dancing. And then it just repeats over and over and over again. So the only time that I will watch Disney Plus is when Doctor Who is on. And they're saving me money because of putting out only 8 episodes. I only have to subscribe to Disney Plus 2 months a year now. But one thing that I would love to know the answer of as a shareholder in Disney is how much money did they give to Doctor Who, be it BBC or Bad Wolf, because Disney is a publicly held company. They do have transparency to their shareholders. And a few weeks ago, I was of the opinion that Disney only purchased the streaming rights. Now, that may have been a large amount of money. So that could have been a good cash influx into the production of Doctor Who just for the streaming rights. But in the last couple of weeks, seeing what's happened, seeing this trailer, seeing it getting dropped at midnight for the British when it's a British show, which is ridiculous. I understand that. But the more of these things I keep seeing, and this trailer makes me wonder more, how much is Disney really involved in this above and beyond the streaming rights? Now, what's surprising to me, as much interest as there is in this, if Disney had produced any public information to their shareholders that said, we have invested $30 million in Bad Wolf Productions for Doctor Who or something, certainly somebody would have scanned a document like that and put it on Twitter or Reddit or something like that. So I think that it's really murky for us to know how much Disney has been involved in Doctor Who money-wise, and I would really like to know the answer to that. Because yes, it does look, it's becoming more obvious in just the last couple of weeks that Disney has some sort of push.
Now, just to finish off with timescales, then moving to Jeremy, as I said, and then please everyone join after that. I'm just trying to be fair to the panel too. So timescales, just before I move to Jeremy, I'll just give you a first shout of this after discussing Disney. Do you think it was Disney's input that caused this?
No. And I will take that at face value for what Russell T. Davies said. I don't have the exact quote here, so I'm not even going to try to quote him because I would accidentally misquote him. But this is something right here where when I first saw this on Twitter one morning, I thought somebody was joking because I never considered Davros to be in a wheelchair, okay? And throughout the day, I was thinking, wow, whoever started that joke, it's in really poor taste. So I went back to look and see who started this joke, only to find out that no, this isn't a joke, that apparently Russell Davies and his team decided that Davros displayed wheelchair users as being evil or something like that. Okay. Now, I don't think that way because I never thought Davros was in a wheelchair. So what I did is I got a hold of a Doctor Who friend of mine, Galen Lee, a Broadway music composer and a public disability rights advocate here in the United States. Very highly respected lady. And asked her, she uses a wheelchair long term. And I asked her if she thought that Davros was in a wheelchair, and she said yes, which was shocking to me. So she got me off the fence. I didn't know what to think about Davros Gate, but if people that use wheelchairs perceived Davros to be an evil wheelchair user, and they felt excluded from Doctor Who, I am absolutely completely fine with that old Davros going away. If that allows people to feel more included in the show. But I don't believe that Disney was behind this. I believe this falls squarely on Russell Davies, just simply based on what he said. I'm taking what he said as being true.
Okay, so I did promise Jeremy and then Cinnamon. Of course, I can see your hand. So Jeremy.
Sorry, sorry, what do you want to say on what aspect?
Well, we're talking about the Disney input on Doctor Who and interventions that we're guessing at, and I've obviously got on the screen as an example, possibly. Timescales isn't happy with it and doesn't think it is, as in, isn't to do with Disney. What do you think, Jeremy, regarding Davros, or what you've seen so far? Are you seeing a Disney effect? Are you thinking they're having more say than we've been told by RTD?
I think Disney are having more say. But certainly I would have thought that if Disney were putting up 50% of the money or whatever, I would have thought they would have insisted that, 3 or 4 of the episodes were made in America. And with a lot of co-productions, like with the New Avengers, when that was made with Canadian and French money, they insisted that some of the episodes had to be made over in Canada and France, as well, obviously in the UK as well. But I haven't seen any evidence of that yet at the moment. But as far as the Davros thing's concerned, I think Russell T Davies was behind that.
Right.
Okay. The Cinnamon, you did want to come in?
Yeah, I do believe that was. This is down to Russell, because I can imagine him, in an empty room picking a fight with himself, looking for things to be upset about. This would be one of them. 2 points on that, because I would say that just because people have an issue with it, that doesn't necessarily make them right. So again, for every one person that might have an issue with this, every other 2 people might. Because I have our good friend Scottish Davros was disgusted by this, and he has cerebral palsy, I believe, a wheelchair user, and he hated this because he always looked up to Davros. He's never once, again, as far as even just general consensus, no one's ever really looked at it as a wheelchair, because
it's a life support
it was
machine.
The Daleks are his creation.
Yeah.
So it's him, and it's it's him becoming more Dalek. And it's, again, honestly, some people would say it's anecdotal, but I've never once heard of anyone who ever had a problem with this character up until it then was made a problem. And again, I keep saying this because even though he was in this life support unit, it never hindered him. The fact that him being in this, the fact that he isn't able-bodied, never stopped him. If anything, I would make the argument that he was good representation, because by him being in this chair, it never stopped him from creating one of the most evil creations in the universe, the Daleks. Davros is probably the most iconic villain. Obviously not on the levels of Darth Vader, but in terms of is that reach, he's up there. He's a very iconic character. And at the end of the day, again, if some people who do happen to be in a wheelchair do think it's a problem, that absolute opinion, but that doesn't necessarily make them right, because again, for every person who is in a wheelchair who hates it, there'll be another person who hates that they've changed it. And at the end of the day, what is a fact is that they have, if they now this, I wouldn't even say this is. I mean, again, anyone can have an opinion, but I wouldn't say this is. I wouldn't say this is subjective, because if you look at those 2 pictures there, you see the one on the left and then you see the one on the right. What's better to you? 9 times out of 10, everyone will say the one on the left, because that is a striking. There's nothing else that looks like that. Whereas now,
that's right,
you've got sort of Uncle Fester, Adam's Family kind of looking guy in an actor uniform. It makes him boring. Now he's just a normal guy. He's and he's able-bodied as well. He's able-bodied. Now he's walking around on 2 legs. So if anything, I have a problem with that. The fact that you've changed him, because again, you have this perceived notion that you just assumed that everyone thinks, oh, well, he's evil because he's in a wheelchair. No one never thought of that. And who's stopping evil? Who's stopping someone from being evil who is in a wheelchair? Evil comes in all forms
So
of
Cinnamon.
in all
Sorry,
forms of
Cinnamon.
ways. Gay people could be evil. Straight people could be evil. Black, white, it doesn't matter who you are. Anyone has the capacity to be evil.
It's
So to
just
sort
that
of,
Cinnamon. I
for
suppose
Russell
we're
to
raising
white
this.
knight himself.
We're raising this Cinnamon, I suppose, because of the Little Mermaid, for Snow White, that Disney seemed to, as a brand, have issues with those awkward, problematic characterizations in cultural stories. And so that's why we kind of mentioned it. Was it Disney? Now, I've heard Timescale say, no, he doesn't think it is. I've seen people in the thread say they don't think it's Disney, it's RTD. John, you were going to come in, but as you come in, I was just going to say, Sadako24 says the opposite. I am told Disney was responsible for the Davros Gate business, that the issue was they believed only a disabled actor could play a disabled character, and RTD had already cast Julian Bleach. Do you think it was RTD, Disney, or a mixture?
I agree with Sadako. It was Disney involvement. And the reason I will say that is because if you go back to 2008, and there was an article with RTD in Doctor Who magazine where he talks about bringing Davros back for season 4. And he's doing nothing but praising Davros in that article. So this smells of Disney, but it also to me, I can understand why people don't know whether it's RTT or Disney, because they're both ideologically, they follow the same format. You know, that's what they all believe in. With regards to the Davros thing, and I said this at the time, and what makes me laugh about this is he does his interview about, oh, Davros, you know, we can't do that in this, you know, in this era, you know, we've got to get rid of him. But he's quite happy to make Davros a straight white man as the evil villain. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say as well is you then have a special on where he's got the unit advisor in a wheelchair firing missiles out of a wheelchair. So on one hand, you've got Davros is evil, and on the other hand, you've got, hang on a minute, but it's perfectly okay to fire rockets from your wheelchair. So it's just, I said this before, with this whole Davros thing, with these people who think they're the arbiters of truth and how we should all think, it's like a snake that's trying to eat itself, because they'll never be satisfied. They will always find getting themselves into a loophole, because no one is ever going to be satisfied with it. You do Davros, then it'll be Cybermen will have to be cyber people, and you go on and on and on, and then bang, series is gone. Nobody's watching. That's the end of it. It's nonsense.
Simple way they could have got around it. If they really had such a problem with it, they could have just not had him in it at all. You know, they could have just said, "Well, maybe we're retiring the character." And I'm sure more people would have been fine, be a little bit disappointed to see him go, obviously. Like, you would save yourself from causing such a storm in the teacup over nothing. I mean, the absolute hullabaloo this caused. And, you know, and the fact that they were so out of touch that they were surprised by this reaction. I mean, yeah, you know, you're changing Darth Vader. You know, is that now an issue? You know, of having something up for I mean, come
Give
on.
Him time. Give him time.
He's looking for problems where there isn't one.
ideas.
And look at that now. He looks like Gru from Despicable Me.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, boring.
The thing about Davros is, growing up, I never saw the Life Machine. All I saw was an absolutely superbly evil, intelligent being that was going to do everything possible to stay alive and to fulfill his dream of building those Daleks. That's all I saw as a kid and through my life. And, you know, I'm thankful that RTD told me I was wrong about that, because I was clearly mistaken for how many
to that, John, and everybody else, does that make Stephen Hawking problematic now, even though he was a disabled scientist?
I think he was problematic for other reasons.
He is problematic for different reasons. He's problematic
Yeah, he
for
went to a certain island. Yeah. Ooh.
But this is what I mean. But on the actual score of the wheelchair, I mean, hello. I mean, we do have people in wheelchairs who are very able, who are, and of course, I never saw it as a blooming wheelchair anyway. It was a life support machine. But I just wanted to come in and, you know, as we're talking about whether this is a Disney decision or an RTD decision, obviously going forward, so let's just park it for a second. You think it might be RTD, let's just for sake of argument. But as David Mullen says, if Davros is in a wheelchair, where does this leave the Daleks? And the point is there that maybe if the Disney haven't intervened yet, I'm asking the panel, will Disney have an issue with the Daleks, with their linkage? Because actually, if Disney learns about it, they're a mutant inside, and to enable them, they need this travel machine.
Well, they've dug themselves into a hole, haven't they? Like I was just saying, because they've done that with Davros. So now with the Daleks, they're going to be opening themselves up to all of that criticism in certain elements, because they've slapped themselves in the face with a pie, haven't they? You know, it's silly.
So they won't be on books like these in the future.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, let's have a look. Give me a second, Jeremy. Let's have a look.
The American
Ooh.
version.
Brilliant.
I've got that. I actually have that. I have that same one. Cool.
But that looks like so generic American sci-fi. It doesn't say Doctor Who to me. It's like 1980s. Like
I got
it's
it at
Even the
place
title.
called McKay's with used books and the day of the dog.
That looks like
I
the
love that
Lucasfilm
logo.
logo, you know, with all the thing going around it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's a great
Okay.
cover.
And there were others.
Okay, we're still doing Davros, but I'm sorry, Jeremy. Go on, I'll bring you back in. Jeremy, shows it again. Sorry, I was just moving
Sorry,
on.
I
there.
was just going to show the others. That was all.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, I'll make it. There you go.
Yeah, that's great.
I'll take
Oh,
that
cool.
off.
I don't have that one.
I've seen that one.
wow.
Yeah.
Android Invasion.
Cool.
That looks more
Brilliant.
Doctor Who to me than the other one did.
And the Doomsday weapon.
Cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Great.
Yeah, that's like generic 1970s, 80s sci-fi.
Yeah.
Malcolm Hulk, excellent writer right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was saying earlier, everybody in the thread before we started the stream, that actually the effects around Jeremy are like Wild Blue Yonder at the moment.
Yeah. This is an exhibition.
Oh yes, yeah. Is that the one
Stop.
that in '73 I saw John Pertwee with? Is it that one? That exhibition?
I think this is one of the later one, either the Doctor exhibition at Blackpool or Longleat, because there's a mirror at the side of it that way. You
Yeah.
can see
Oh yeah.
the first one didn't have the mirror there in the Blackpool exhibition, so this was probably one of the later Doctor exhibitions. Maybe
Okay.
Blackpool. I don't know. I can't find the identity of it though.
So I was just going to bring up, because we're talking about the Davros intervention and sorry, Disney intervention. Davros intervenes enough. Can I just mention, Michael Nemo says, don't forget about the ridiculous manual ramp on the TARDIS. Now,
Oh, that was always there. That's how K9 got in and out.
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
It really was.
So,
But
just
yeah.
before we leave Disney alone, are there any other concerns or benefits to the Disney involvement? The streaming, of course, is amazing. Does everybody, regarding the streaming and the schedules we saw announced, whereas, you know, timescales will have a grin on his face, Brandon will be happy. The British...
Don't say that. I'm not a cynic.
It wasn't our decision. We had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, Michelle will be happy. America wins, Britain loses, that kind of thing. But I was going to just say, regarding the Disney influence, that clearly is a core, you know, decision with the BBC, I assume. But is Disney now winning this argument by doing that? Or do you think, hold on a minute, we can't do that? The Americans get quite a nice, tidy schedule from the streaming, but the British, if they're kept off the internet, get 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. on a Saturday night. So obviously I can see Cinnamon wants to come in first, but basically, is that a Disney influence that they're saying, hold on, it's streaming rights, we're paying them off all the money, we pick the times and you lump it. Cinnamon?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone knows. I mean, I've spoken, haven't I, about how much I wasn't happy with it. But you know, from a legal point of view, I suppose, you know, if you're paying for something, you obviously want some sort of say, and that's what it is. I think it does purely come down to them having input. I still believe that Russell has genuine, complete control. He gets the final say. But of course, I always thought all along, there's no way you put that money into the show and then not expect to have a say. And I think that's what it is. I think it is as simple as they will put their input on things. They will exchange notes. Oh god, I think they said. I think when we got the toy maker, I think they actually did like, who is this character? Because it's not anything from recently. I saw like they'll say, well, who's this? And I think it is a discussion. I did see a comment actually that it did leave me thinking, because I think, when we think about, oh, it's just them getting the better end of the deal, and I still think that to a degree. But on the other hand, as well, to play devil's advocate, I suppose, we do still have, we've got all the classic episodes. I always thought, why isn't there, like, if you go on Disney Plus and you go on the Star Wars section, it's filled, there's different, it's all sorts of content. You can watch it in timeline order, you could watch all the animations or like and all that, and same as well. And I thought there'd be something similar for Doctor Who. Maybe not a big pile, because I know it's not a Disney-owned product, but something of that, like a collection, because they do collections as well. I thought maybe something like that. They could have all of classic Who there, New Who. Maybe I thought they'd have all that, but they don't. And I thought, oh, they're just getting the specials, and I thought it's a shame that, because I thought, again, I saw a comment and somebody said, as an American, we haven't got Tales of the TARDIS. We haven't got access to all these other things that you've got, unless obviously they can get a DVD or a Blu-ray imported or somehow, or if they get it from any stores that you have. But I just thought, again, I just thought that was something to think about, because I suppose that's a legal thing as well. Rights for the new era. They haven't got any claim to anything that's come before. Maybe. I believe, because isn't it? I'm sure the Americans will tell me. Isn't the classic series on HBO? And I think that runs out in 2025. Might be some deal there where they can get New Who.
It's on the BritBox
or Hulu.
Pluto.
No,
Yeah.
Tubi.
Pluto.
That's where you find classics. Classics free for us. We can just go watch it with a couple commercials on Tubi. If we want to subscribe and get classic, we got to get BritBox, and then the New Who is on. They just call it Max now, but it was HBO Max. That's where New Who is.
So Brandon, I know John's going to come in a minute, but Brandon, since you're making that point, I read somewhere that Disney were only interested in this season onwards, and they don't have any interest in streaming Classic Who. Now, is that because, as you're saying, it's shown elsewhere in America, so there's no need? Or is it that they might find some of old Who a little bit embarrassing, problematic, and they just want to start with what they have as saying?
Well, it was my love of Doctor Who, the new show, and reading the novels and the comics that drove me into watching all the classic show. And but I had a lot of love for it and wanted it, and I wanted to embrace the old, cheaper looking stuff, because I was tired of all the razzle dazzle with nothing in it. It's all shallow. And so that's why I just absolutely love it, and watching it changed how I felt about New Who. So, but I could see I'm not like everybody else, I don't think. So, I mean, like me and Michelle and Terry might feel different about it. We're a special couple of fans over here. You know what I'm saying? Like the average person might be turned off by that, I think, because the average, especially young kids, like my kids, not necessarily people our age. Like I'm in my early 40s. Cinnamon, if he's watched all the classic series, he's a special case. But like my kids, they would think that was cheap. You know what I mean? I don't even know if my wife would watch it, and she likes New Who.
Now, John, what are you going to say?
And this is good. It ties into what I was saying earlier about all the things about this is between Americanisms, and I think they tend to be a bit more blown up, a bit more bigger, a bit on a grander scale, a bit more loud. Whereas again, even for British audiences as well, 60s. Again, my girlfriend, I recently got her into the show. I've converted a non-fan. Yes, hooray me! But no, I started her with series 1 with Christopher Eccleston. I thought it's modern enough. It's a good jumping on point. It's not too in the past. I thought it's a good jumping on point. I thought, well, it's better to start there than Classic Who, because Classic Who is rather slow, and that's even for a British audience. So especially for, again, with an American audience, with a different culture, different tastes in what they consume. you know, it is different. So yeah, I can absolutely imagine. Yeah, I can see what Brandon's saying there.
John, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I was going to say, follow up on what Cinnamon was saying about Doctor Who on original run Doctor Who on Disney Plus. And I've said this before, and I would say within 12 months you'll see it on Disney Plus. I mean, it's called the Whoniverse, and if you go on Disney Plus, you've got tabs at the top. So you've got Marvel, you've got Star Wars. They're going to have a tab at the top for Doctor Who. And that's based on how successful this series and the following series is, because, you know, Disney Plus is struggling at the moment. It's trying to get the viewers, and they're trying to get everything they can onto their platform to get viewers to subscribe. Doctor Who, that's why they've bought in and they're getting involved in Doctor Who. They need good stuff, and I hate saying it. I've said it yesterday. I hate it. Content. They call it content.
Yeah, I hate that too.
You know, and it goes back to what Timescales was saying a few minutes back. You know, in the UK, what I don't like about it is we're license payers. So we pay a TV license, you know, that funds these productions. If Disney are funding Doctor Who, I agree with what Timescale says. Let everyone know what you've done on that investment, because the argument that you have in the UK from quite a few people is, well, hang on a minute, we're paying the TV license. You know, you're getting it early in the United States, but we're paying 160, 170 pounds a year for the TV license. You know, what are you putting up for it to justify that? So
I heard, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah,
John, the rumor I heard was like 100 million pounds, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it said pounds instead of dollars, but either way, I mean,
That's more because that's actually benefiting Disney, because the pound conversion, pound is stronger than the dollar.
Way stronger.
The thing with Disney is that we will never get transparency on a Disney. Disney does not, the mouse does not reveal its secrets. Then that's one of the problems that Disney is having. Oh, Billy, you're not going to tell you anything. I had to do that once, people.
Neither does the BBC.
Exactly. The fact that the mouse it has put their money into this investment, they're going to want something back, and so that's going to be the deal. Because of the hour conversion problem between time here and the time over there, and also we have different time zones here across the United States, is that it was going to drop here earlier because Friday night is a big streaming night in the United States, and also to get the buzz over the weekend. There's no way that they gave all this money without having something in return. And also my other theory is this could be our revenge for you guys burning our White House. So, you know, we have 200 years later, we finally get you.
Represent.
People still alive from that.
well, no, but we like women, we hold grudges. Like women, we hold grudges.
Surely not.
Now, as Terry's just said, we've got representation of about 4 time zones here, haven't we?
Yeah.
You know, there's in Britain as well. Now,
3
just
time
to kind
zones
of
in the US.
and just to kind of move us on slightly on this big debate topic, first of all, to freshen up for a second, there's another bit of news. So just for a second, let me just show you this little snippet that came out after the trailer and get your response to this, if there is one. TV Zone just told us on the same day as the trailer, the BBC said, viewers can also expect some more reveals coming very soon, with Easter treats being lined up. So we've got the great marketing. This is the great marketing campaign now. You've had the trailer, you had the teaser trailer saying there's a trailer coming, and now you've got this little kind of tasty morsel that says in a week's time we're going to get some treats. Do you reckon it's going to be Carol Ann Ford's announced? Do you reckon it's going to be some big beasts in acting, because we haven't had many? Do you reckon it's going to be something that's going to be the game changer, or do you think I just have been drinking too much tea?
Maybe
give me something like Hills
I mean, there wasn't many villains.
None of those things will attract a new viewer.
No, I love these though,
Yeah,
because it'll be like they always are. It'll be like the announcement will come out, everyone will be waiting for it, and it'll be like, Shooty will be wearing blue socks in the new series.
Or the Brigadier's coming back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Brigadier is coming on a game console. I know that was me. I saw
a spin-off.
I saw a leak and it was a hoax one. Sorry, Jeremy, what was that?
Is that the spin-off with the Sea Devils?
Well, you see, that was the other thing I was going to say about the Disney effect, while we're kind of mixing news and everything, but it's that type of show, isn't it? Because it's complicated. That isn't one of the Disney effects, that Marvel effect, that they need spin-offs, and that's why we've got the legend of. Well, it's not the Legend of the Sea Devils. Why am I quoting one of the worst Sea Devils stories ever? Battle of the Land and the Sea. You know, there's that. So, I mean, this could be anything. This could be an Easter treat of a lineup saying David Tennant's back in a spin-off with Catherine Tate. They stop weeding because the Sea Devils attack, and you know, that kind of thing. And remember, in the trailer, everybody, because that trailer's still in my brain, that old TARDIS is that David Tennant's, and he just goes back, pulls the wheel, because he'll have his gardening gloves on. He kind of bleaches the TARDIS outside, gets in there, and actually starts to drive it again back away to deal with the Sea Devils. There you go. Is that our Easter treat, do you think?
No. I think it'd probably be, maybe it's a unit show or a Paul McGann show, something like that.
Oh, yes. I'd have Paul McGann back in a second.
Or something a la Tales of the TARDIS, because that was the last minute announcement. That was
Michelle, I wouldn't have many. I know those Tales of the TARDIS are so short, though, aren't they? It's like they're like little kind of cameos.
like 5 minutes, 5, 6, but that was. I'm just thinking of that was the last minute announcement. Was that something's coming next week, and then boom, those Tales of the TARDIS.
Well, Cybermat strikes in Australia. Shouldn't you be at work? Gan, don't overthink the treat. The Gan will say to me that I'm the one who's getting excited. They're looking at me going, I think the sun has gone with you. We don't want to repeat the 60th anniversary special 2, Wild Blue Yonder, which, as you may know, we did try and do our final discussion of the other day. And
this is an Easter treat.
Well, as long as it is not as bad as Doomsday, we're safe. I mean,
I think
Easter eggs.
I think they're trying to probably almost. I think they've, you know, as a comic book reader growing up, one thing you knew that was cool is that, like, you know, Batman and Superman have their own book, but they're also teamed up in Justice League and things like that, right? Then comics went crazy and overexploited that, you know, trying to get people to buy multiple things. And I think maybe slowly but surely they're trying to turn Doctor Who into a universe like Marvel, because all they can think about is, oh wow, what happened turning the comics you know, and all the Marvel dollars they got, and that's all they can see, man. That's all they can see is trying to duplicate that.
Brandon, isn't this the very point we're making? Why are we doing this show debate tonight? Did I just want to talk about it because I just want to? No, because
exactly
one of the reasons you're saying, which is we've got Stark Tower, the unit headquarters. It's Stark Tower, isn't it? We've talked about Disney, but the Marvel effect, the Marvel universe, the Who-niverse, come on. We know where this is going. Spin-offs. We all like a spin-off of a successful show. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Bionic Woman was much better than the $6 Million Man, much more successful. You know, you sometimes have those moments. Would you say Knots Landing was more successful than Dallas? No. Would you say that the Colbys was more successful than Dynasty or Dynasty? I don't know. You know, sometimes the spin-offs work. Sometimes they just try and milk something. And the Americans have the money, you know, let's be honest, you know, Lorimar and all those, Aaron Spelling and all them, they all had the money to create a spin-off. Whereas in Britain, we didn't normally do that. So when we're talking about is Doctor Who becoming more Americanized, I suppose one of the other angles is this spin-off idea, the formula that's working, so let's milk it even more. So Brandon, you know, this is the issue, isn't it? That we're going to get this Marvel Comics effect with Doctor Who. Now, are you happy with that with Marvel, or do you think it dilutes the effect, it diminishes it, and we all get bored?
I feel like if it was done well, we would all be grateful and it could be awesome. But I just don't think that's not the path that we're on, because they're not starting from a good place. There's too much controversy and people split over what they've already given us. And maybe, maybe they would like to hook people in with the new stuff and then say, oh, okay, now we'll get Classic Who on here too. So y'all have a little bit extra to watch, some reason to subscribe. But I just don't know. I would enjoy it fine because I am a huge comic fan, but like I don't read anything much that they put out from DC or Marvel now anymore. So I'm basically in the same boat with Doctor Who and comics and all that. They're all kind of doing similar things that turn me off.
Now, Terry, you came up with that genius
When
idea.
we talk about Doctor Who being Americanism, I worry that I think Doctor Who is losing originality. There's a lot of things now that we're seeing. Stark Tower. It seems like there's too much. I know Russell's. Whenever you watch two, he's always using Ruffy as a reference point. He's always using this as a reference point. He's always looking at other shows, and it's like, well, in fairness, we criticize Chibnall for copying other people all the time, and we're seeing all these bringing musicals in, bringing again Stark Tower in, all these things, even going back and bringing up, old comics, and as good as that comic was, going back in and bringing old the Star Beast. That was a comic that was then brought and adapted to us on screen, and again, even bringing back former showrunners, bringing back former writers, for all this talk of being so progressive, forward thinking, and for the next Doctor Who, for the next generation, we seem to, and just in general, copying other people. And other franchises, other genres, borrowing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with borrowing elements. I mean, Rainer Morbius, an obvious Frankenstein, inspiration there, and there was another one as well, but I've forgotten that one. But there's nothing wrong with
homage is good.
borrowing
Copycat, no.
elements.
But you can see.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see though that Disney and the American budget would say, oh my God, there's a 60-year-old sci-fi franchise here that you can plunder for its treasures. So in a way, Cinnamon, they will want to plunder the toy maker and maybe the meddling monk and go way back and bring them all in, because can you imagine the toys? Now, Terry,
I've got no problem with that. If anything, I'm happy getting the toy maker back and things like that. Sorry, Terry, but just I think I'm all for, because there's loads of stuff in the comics and Big Finish that I would love to see them adapted onto screen.
Right. Right.
But sorry, Terry, you go on.
Can I just
you have the floor. Floor is yours.
So Terry, you had an idea of a spin-off series.
Well, the Master. We have a developed character, not a race, who has the whole universe to travel through himself. He doesn't have to always be doing evil, but reacting to the evils he's done. He could have battles with the Cybermen, the Daleks, but at least it's a character. He's got his own history that would draw you back into the old series, and he's not limited to just 2 or 3 years. The Master covers 40 years now. So if you're going to have a spin-off, that's the character I would start with.
Now, but while we're on that, because you've just brought it up, it wasn't, I saw that had nothing to do with me. And John, if you can hold it for a minute, John, because obviously we're on the Master spin-off. We might like this idea. I worry about people having an idea like with lots of money and want to change it. I wonder if the Master's problematic. But let's just do this, because I had this item lined up, Terry. You've just teed me up in our discussion here. Right. Right. Well, Terry, you said you would like a Master spin-off series. So let's show the panel. Space Junk, if you haven't watched us before in the thread, Space Junk is where I show you some Doctor Who villains or characters or monsters, and I say which ones would you junk and never want to see again? Or in this case, I'm going to say wished we'd never seen. So I'm going to show you every iteration of the Master. And my question to the panel, and I'd like this kind of fast and speedy and, way. So basically, which Masters here, and that Missy's there as well, would you wished we had not seen? In other words, They spoilt it. They changed the direction. You didn't like it. So I'll start with timescales. Brandon, Cinnamon, John. I'll go around if you can see where I'm going there. So here we go. Here's the range. So you've got them all there from Delgado all the way through. And yes, I did this item because of Eric Roberts. If you're talking about Americanization or whatever, we had an American version of the master, whether that was good or bad. So timescales, which master would you wish we hadn't had?
You know, I can't answer that, Brendan, because I like all of them. That would be really hard for me to have to pick one and say, no, get rid of that one, because I actually like every single version of the master.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got
So-
Cybermat Strikes agrees with you, except he's missing the point of the game. No.
Do I really have to pick one?
You do? I'm sorry, you're now a showrunner.
Oh, good
Yeah.
Lord.
Do we not count the burnt masters the same? Apart from them being
Yeah,
different
yeah,
actors,
okay.
it's essentially the same.
There's my
Right, isn't it?
exit right there. That's my exit. Thank you, Cinnamon. I will
First
pick
one.
the burnt master because he might scare kids. There you go.
Oh, I know.
We don't
but
want the
I
burnt
love-
master on
Yeah,
Disney.
I did like the Peter Pratt version better. When I saw him in the Keep of Traken, they smoothed him out, and the Deadly Assassin one. Yeah, I write your timescales. I was scared rigid, but I loved it and I tuned in. Anyway, I think if I've got it right, Brandon next. Who would you ditch? Honestly,
Probably Eric Roberts, I guess, of all of them. Now I do like the '96 movie, okay, but being as how the first time I saw it was like a couple years back. So I've got kind of more modern day eyes watching. I did enjoy it, but after having watched all the classic Who, it's, you know, some of the stuff, I just don't really like his portrayal in it that much.
okay. So if I'm going along, it's Cinnamon next.
Oh yeah, I'm with Greg here. It's very difficult because they're all really great. So God, I was gonna suggest, you know, because there's two burnt masters there, and there's Carnation. They're just different actors and different makeup. So I suppose
Right.
I'll get rid of the burnt master. The one from the Keeper of Traken, and the more realistic looking one, because someone looks a bit more scary, so I'll get rid of the least scary one.
I loved his voice as well. He had such a scary voice. So if I'm going along, it's now Terry. This was your idea. This was your spin-off. So which one would you dump, though, and we pretend that regeneration didn't happen?
The Sims master. I
Really?
didn't like his style of insanity.
I get you. I get you. So you're giving... Did you like how Missy was portrayed?
Yeah, she sounds like an ex-wife.
So I'm over to Jeremy now. Come on, who are you dumping here?
Oh, Missy, definitely, absolutely.
Why is that?
So irritating.
An ex-wife.
No,
Oh, she was
fortunately, I was not married.
she was a good actress, though. I loved what she tried to do.
Oh yeah, I just mean the character.
Yeah, I know,
don't
I
mean the
understand.
actor
So
personally.
Darko 24 agrees with you. Again, there we go. So we're over to John now.
He's not there, but I'm going to pick him, Sacha Dhawan.
Gosh, yeah, you can see I had a dodgy moment. That
He's
wasn't
down there on the
deliberate.
rock.
Sasha.
Look,
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
he's
yeah.
waving.
Well, hello, Eric. Welcome back, buddy.
How right? I thought God, do you know what? That means I've edited him out of my brain. Oh, sorry, Sasha.
Good for
So,
you.
John, I heard what Terry said about John Sims. So, being this kind of crazy doctor. So, I thought Sasha's was quite crazy as well. So, why are you ditching Sasha's and not John's, so to speak?
Well, John would be my second choice on it. I think I've got to a point with it where I'm fed up with them trying to make the master of this insane madman. You know, I just want them to go back to a Delgado, you know, almost an English gentleman, very calculated on what he's doing. You know, he looks like he's going to be your best friend, but he could kill you within a second. That kind of master.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Dewan, I just thought was just hammed up beyond belief. In that, when he was first revealed, I thought, oh, he could be quite good. But I think the final straw for me was when he was doing, what was it, the dancing in the dancing, and I was just
Oh, Boney
yeah,
M.
I needed to see a counsellor for a few days after that.
Now, Michelle, go on then.
That's
Who
your
are
favourite
you
song,
getting
isn't
rid
it,
of?
Brendan?
Sasha Dewan, because I like tried to pretend that the whole era didn't happen. You know,
Yeah.
we all needed counseling after that episode.
So, did you ask me, Cinnamon, who I would dump?
Nobody will.
No, I asked you if Boney M was your favourite song, but yeah, feel
no,
free to tell you who you would dump.
I do like disco. I'm 55. I'm in the early late 70s. I love disco. Hello.
God bless the 70s that thought a song about Rasputin would be like, okay, let's party.
Yeah,
It's Rasputin.
I like Can You Feel It? The Jacksons. Come on,
I will say,
yes,
it's not as bad as
alive.
Spice Up Your Life from the 60s. That was stuck in my head for days and days and days.
Yeah.
Cinnamon. I'll tell you very quickly. When I left one school, all the 50-year lads were leaving as well. It was that type of school. So they're all 16 to the Americans. And they all said, we're going to do Spice Up Your Life because our girlfriends are dancers. So can we do this in a talent show? And we want you to be in it. So I was Ginger Spice in a Union Jack mini dress, all made up, doing Spice Up Your Life. So when the giggle was on, I had trauma because it took me back to doing this double beat dancing in front of a school. So there you go.
We need to see the photographs.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Wow.
You may have to conjure up some images of that one.
There are photographs. There are photographs.
YouTube and have blackmail on you, Brendan.
I'm sensing the next thumbnail
And if
somehow.
not,
Work
yeah,
it into
we'll-
the next video.
So just before we move on from that, because actually, Terry, well done, because that's a spin-off. I saw Brandon nodding as well. I think that's a spin-off I'd love to see, The Master.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And
just say, Brendan, you're now Old Spice.
Yeah, I'm very Old Spice.
Old Spice.
Yes, I'm not hot either.
I mean, imagine him in his,
Hey, Brendan,
his little Patrick cosplay costume dancing around his living room. Oh,
well, it's quite enjoyable. I've got good legs. Time scales?
Yeah, Brendan, let me throw something in here about spinoffs real quick before we move on. I've been listening to what the panel's saying, and I think that everyone's totally right. And I think that Disney is probably going to move Doctor Who into spinoff territory. I love Cherry's idea of the Master. Never thought of that before. I would like to see a Paul McGann spinoff. I would like to see Sophie Aldred's Ace come back for a spinoff. And I would like to see a spinoff of excellent Big Finish stories that are made into television episodes finally by real proven talented authors like Joseph Lidster, Eddie Robson, Andy Lane, Paul Mars, for God's sake. Paul Mars could tell one of the most beautiful, funny, real authentic Doctor Who television stories that we've ever seen. So I would like to see those, but I think unfortunately that's my pipe dream. I don't think that's actually what's going to happen. And I'm a little bit fearful of what Disney is going to do with spinoffs. Because of what was that thing, Star Wars, you know. So that's really all. I just wanted to throw that in there about another American opinion about what Disney's going to do with the spinoffs.
Well, here's another. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Michelle.
Here's another thing that we haven't talked about yet. They have spin-offs so they can produce their own merchandise.
Yes, exactly.
Because Disney is a merchandise company, and that's what keeps them going is the money and to go and build. So that's one thing where I'm immediately wondering is the minute that the announcement that Doctor Who was coming was when was it going to end up in the Disney store?
But you see, Michelle, when I see
Michelle just nailed that.
The thing is, Michelle, when I see a Disney shop, and well, not that I go in them much, obviously, I'm not a parent, but when I have seen them, it's all fluffy toys. I can't see a fluffy Davros or
no, it's online. It's on. They've shut down a lot of but it's online and in the parks. Because you go in the parks, you can build your own lightsaber, build your own sonic screwdriver, build your own TARDIS, the Lego sets, everything is the merchandise, the backpacks, the pens. That is all a Disney store.
Now, Michelle, 2 years ago, John wanted to say something before the Master spin-off. So go on, John.
Now, similarly on the spin-offs, one thing that I've said many a time is that I'm fed up of hearing about they're going to do this and that with the spin-offs. Get the primary show good first, then focus on the spin-offs. That's how you do it. But
Exactly.
I agree with timescales. You know, I'm a listener to Big Finish. I enjoyed the War Master. I agree with TARDIS Spider, what he was saying there. They could be adapted, but sadly, that's not what I'm going to get from Disney. And I'll give you an example. This suggested Solarian, you know, Sea Devil series. It could be a great series where it could be you could actually have humanity in the middle of a war between the Solarians and the Sea Devils. You could play into that, but you know you're not going to get that. And also, I can never see Disney doing a series about a villain like the Master, because they want it to be a series about a hero. And it goes back to what Michelle says. What sells? It's merchandise, and they're gonna promote a hero. That's what they're gonna do.
But they might introduce the Master with a sex life. The Master might have a sex life in the spin-off. You know, it might be emotional baggage. You know,
Don't make me turn the screen off, Brendan.
This is a
Loki
I mean,
series.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Stop projecting your wish.
It is.
TARDIS Spider was right there. Loki is an example.
Yeah, Loki's
Yes,
yeah.
he's very. So on just to kind of bring us back to our final little component now on this main topic, the American impact. Now we've discussed Disney. We've kind of talked about the Marvelization possibly. Can I just bring up to be? Oh God, I have to do this. I'm terrible. I'm naughty. Latest news. What about this one then? This is maybe better than Easter treats. What about this one? Stephen Moffat is back for the Christmas special. He's writing Doctor Who again. But I mean, there's 2 points here, but I've put them on the same screen. You've got Stephen Moffat's back. Is that good or bad? To me, it's a funny one because I like some of Stephen Moffat's, you know, two-parters, you know, the World War II one, the Silence in the Library one, that sort of thing. I got a bit irritated with the River Song and the marriage and all that timey-wimey stuff there. I didn't like his Christmas specials. So when I'm told he's coming back with Christmas specials, I'm going, right, okay. But the other interesting thing, did everyone find that he phoned, RTD phoned Chris Chibnall first to write an episode. So you've got the club back. And as I've said many times, RTD wants to reunite the Doctor Who universe. He wants everybody to be friends. He wants Chibnall back. He wants Jodie Whittaker to make another appearance. I'm guessing that. I really do. So anyway, when you see that news that Moffat's back, are we all cheering?
I'm
Yeah.
wondering,
So.
is Britain really that short of writers? You know,
Yeah.
I like
It is.
Stephen Moffat's work. Yeah, but
It's a boys' club, isn't it?
They only got 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Gaddis is out there somewhere. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, you guys.
And this is
But I
it.
like his stories.
And this is exactly what you're saying, timescales, because for me, for the last few years, it's felt like, oh, this is a toy that's passed, or a ball that's passed between mates, you know, and going, oh, I've done my bit now, it's your turn. Oh, I've done my bit, it's on to you. Oh, back to you. And to quote James T. Kirk, new minds, fresh ideas, you know, and that's what Doctor Who needs. And the trouble is, as soon as these people were announced to be coming back, I didn't see anything fresh or different happening. I just saw more of what's happened before. And it also speaks to me that they just are so out of touch with people that when he mentions that about Chibnall, he actually thinks that's going to gauge some interest. It's not. There's only about 4 people online that look at Chibnall Doctor Who these days. So this is where someone in the PR marketing team should be saying to them, let's not do this. Let's not put this statement out because it's ridiculous. You know, I'm off my soapbox now.
A team Is there a team?
Well, timescales. We've all often wondered for a while that the showrunner puts too much pressure on these British writers at the moment to actually hold the whole series together. And I've always worried about burnout, but it is starting to make me think he's getting the whole club back. I'm amazed Mark Gatiss hasn't been mentioned yet, for example. Toby, was it Toby Whitehouse, is it? You know, I'm amazed he's not trying to get them. And that's a recent photograph where they're all having a good drink. And you just think, right, okay, this is getting, as John's saying, a little cozy, this. And as Terry was laughing, and as you said, are these the only writers we've got? Well, it seems to be you've got to be in a club. And it seems to me this is getting a bit too pally. Big American money's involved. Disney's involved. We're going global. Why is it only 3 people? You see, they audition people to death, don't they? They really, I mean, to get a job now in the media should be rock hard with the size of our populations. And yet, as we say, 3 people who've done the job before, who've done sometimes Big Finish before, they're all back, all, you know, eating from the same trough. And you think, honestly, are there any other skilled writers out there? But I mean sci-fi writers. I don't mean, you know, they hit their diversity quota by finding somebody who once wrote about a lesbian romance. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sci-fi writers.
Movie.
That's the Acolyte. Well, I had 3 weeks ago Academy Awards. Was we need to bring in more new blood. The Scorseses are out there, the brilliant people, but they're not an apprenticeship. They're not bringing in new talent to refresh the stream. So there is a risk of burnout because again, you know, we've since the New Year's episode a couple years back, there's only been technically 2 writers of Doctor Who episodes.
Yeah.
Either Chris Chibnall or RTD.
The problem is that any new writers that are about, once they write a script, they say, I've got a really great idea for a script, and the BBC say, well, wonderful. However, it's got to go through a committee stage.
Yeah.
You've got to have certain references, etc. And we pick the cast. And by the time that the writers wrote an original idea, and it's a good idea, it's out of the factory machine, out of the machine of the BBC, it's become something completely different. And it looks woke and it looks rubbish.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of writers are not going to come forward and say, I'm going to write a Doctor Who script. This is absolutely what I want to write. There are writers out there, the Big Finish writers. But again, you know, if you get a really good idea for a script and it's messed up, you just say, I'm not going to do it again. Forget it.
So what I do now is I have a script and I run to wherever the bar is to meet one of those 3. It seems to be that it's that closed network now, isn't it? And as Rachel agrees, you know, it's not, you know, where's the auditions? Where's the selection process? Where's the accountability and transparency?
Yeah,
if it is 100 million coming from Disney, sorry, what was that? Is that timescales there?
Yeah, where's the team?
No, right.
Yeah.
Cinnamon.
You know,
I was just going to say,
Russell T. Davis said, I've got millions of ideas of stories that I want to tell. So it's Russell T. Davis's show.
Yeah, millions of Disney dollars. He don't want to share.
What were you going to say, John?
This is the problem with the so-called Fitzroy Tavern clique. You know, we've got 3 best mates, really. We've got 3 showrunners in 20 years' time. One of them a former runner, one of them a returning one at that. And it's, you know, we all know Jinx is only there because, you know, her partner, you know, someone they know is you know, knows Russell. So it's very, you know, and I know perhaps I know Rachel's in the chat. I know she's a bit more clued up about this, but I know this, you know, I know this might be just how the industry works sometimes. You know, I know a lot of it is just, you know, who you know kind of things, as it is in a lot of industries, really, in all forms of life. You know, a lot of times it is, or who you know and connections and stuff. But it's coming down to as simple as, oh, well, I know you, or oh, you're a mate, I'll give you a job. And it's, again, and my problem, and I've before, but I have a certain problem with classism within Doctor Who fandom of certain fans thinking they're above others because they get to work, they get to receive goodies on their YouTube channels, if they tore the party line or we're a special breed because we get to be on the show, kind of thing. And a lot of times, and it's been times where where we've raised concerns, and then like people like people like Nicholas Briggs have then retweeted something and then kind of like putting it down and then sending all people their way to just there's nothing worse than stating your own personal opinion, and then someone who's a bit higher up then can you kind of like punching down, and next thing you know, you got about 10 people hounding you, for daring to say your piece. So again, I hate that. It's a bit of a problem within fandom. A lot of, I think, and I think it's
That's
not to be
that's particularly bad on some
all
forums, which I
vocal.
won't name.
I think it should be addressed.
Now, John, you were going to come in, weren't you?
Yeah, what Jeremy said, 100% agree with it. I also agree with what Cinnamon's just said, that that Fitzroy Tavern crew, I said it before, it's jobs for the boys. If you're in that you're in that circle, you'll get a writing gig within Doctor Who. But in my industry, I'm regulated, so I need to make sure I put forward the best product to the client, and I need to explain my reasons for putting the best product forward to the client. There's nobody at the BBC that is that steward that's doing that for Doctor Who or any other production. There should be someone there who's basically saying, well, why are we going to Russell T Davies again and Moffat after they recommended Chibnall and it was an absolute failure? Why are we listening to what they say? Why aren't we doing a proper interview process of talent worldwide, not just UK, worldwide? But they won't do that. And until that changes, you will just have it passing between all of them again and again.
Exactly. That's
it's
what
a
will
shame.
happen. When Russell,
sorry, Jeremy. What I'll do is I'll read this third out and go to you, Jeremy. Right? Or the reason for these writers being in a club is that nobody else wants to take on the show.
That's
Jeremy.
True. I think there's an element of truth in that, but also the fact is, I think if Russell T Davies stands down tomorrow, the BBC will ask Stephen Moffat to take over.
Yeah,
I've no doubt about that at all. Whether he wants to take it over or not.
I mean,
then there's no longevity.
Classic, John and Jenna wanted to leave, and he wanted to leave, but they wouldn't let him. He was basically held because we've got no one else to do it, and it's like, well, so we thank for JNT for staying as long as he did, but ultimately he stayed.
There was
he was kind of made to really.
Sorry,
and they
it's because they're one dimensional.
Disservice because they will help you out, and then he killed him really because they never. I think after JNT left, it was pretty much.
You could argue, Cinnamon and John and everybody. You could argue that JNT did probably stay on too long, but he was doing it for good reason. He was trying to save the show, and nobody else would replace him and hold the poison chalice of the Doctor Who program then in the late 80s. So we're thankful to him for that. Or are we? Because I have to say, my opinion of the late 80s Doctor Who was it got very tired, and maybe it was being maltreated by the BBC and obviously not JNT, and he was just trying to keep it together. But there was an element where JNT maybe went on too long, and yes, he was doing it for the right reasons, but he kept the show going on, limping on when maybe it should have been rested. I know there's no guarantee.
But Jeremy's right, Brendan, with what he was saying. It will be Moffat again because people high up in the BBC, they're one-dimensional, and they only see Doctor Who working in one particular way, one particular format. So they'll go, hang on a minute. Do you remember when RTD did his first run? Do you remember when Moffat did his first run? They were great, weren't they? Let's get them back. Mm-hmm. They can't see what potentially Doctor Who could be under some fresh people. And that's the trouble you've got.
Which means you've got
again looking back, but not very forward thinking, not very progressive, not much looking forward to what they could do.
Which does mean
again, it's like
sorry,
you said,
Cinnamon. Which just means
we'll just get Moffat in it again.
Which means you've got an echo chamber, and then also means that surely at some point the longevity of the show is at risk, because if it's the same old writers, they have a perishable limit. And then what
I'm looking forward to it because I do believe Moffat was better under. I think a lot of his episodes were stronger. A lot of the best episodes in Russell's era, some of them seem to think that it was under Moffat. I still personally believe Russell was the stronger writer. But he wrote some fantastic episodes. The Empty Child, Of course, Blink, we all know, is in the library. Really great episodes under RTD's stewardship. So that's why I'm looking forward to it, because I know, when he's not always in control, when he's got someone else to sort of, well, I suppose now they'd probably be equals, wouldn't they? I suppose that's probably how they'd go about it. But, so from that point of view, I'm looking forward to it. But again, it's just like, oh, do you remember that episode, that Blink, that, everyone was talking about it, and, it's one of the most favorite ones 17 years ago. Oh, yeah, that's enough to get him to be the next show. It needs to be someone new, I think, next time, when Russell eventually leaves, in whatever capacity that is, whether he just leaves, whether he becomes a sort of presidential role, overseeing somebody.
Moffat did bring a new monster, the Reaping Angels. He stunned us with that. He really got us with Are You My Mummy? He really got us with that. He seemed to know how to scare you. And so I like that, but I didn't like his Christmas specials. I've got this on screen, so I don't want to kind of waste it, but FTM says, well, come on, this is how it works. Rachel was saying the same thing, really. Come on, you get jobs because of who you know. And actually, sometimes that still happens elsewhere as well. And we know that. We're not stupid. But this does look a little bit more than incestuous at the moment. Why are we singling out Doctor Who? Well, obviously, I know this is the Doctor Who stream, but I'm not being sarcastic. But it also...
Well, we're not, because it's like I said as well, it happens in every industry, or, in all walks of life. I did say that, it's something that you do see.
Pervasive.
But, as a general point, we are obviously going to sing out Doctor Who, hence we have a Doctor Who channel.
Yeah, LinkedIn proves that. The fact that LinkedIn exists proves that.
Yeah. But as PD Rich says here, my problem is that they announced interest, that there was announced interest, and I know we mentioned it earlier, and they did nothing with it. So in other words, as we trying to say to FMS, look, if they're quality writers, have them back. I've got nothing about that. And it does happen in everything beyond Doctor Who too. But we all know there was some great interest from, did he do Deep Space Nine? Was it?
No, he did Babylon 5.
I always get them mixed up, which is sacrilege, I know.
I know him from comics, from reading Spider-Man comics that he wrote.
But I mean, I would also say, going back to that previous comment, where the world doesn't revolve around Doctor Who fans. Yeah, I get that. But, if Doctor Who was successful at the moment, we wouldn't be having this argument. Doctor Who is not successful at the moment. And
no, it would be great, wouldn't it, John? We'd like, hey, that was so awesome, wasn't it, bro?
Yeah, exactly. We'd all be buzzing about it because we all, as I've said before, we all want it to work. We all want it to succeed. But, it's not great at the moment. It in my opinion, it needs a few years of a rest, and it needs a reset. Because how many times have we had a quote from Russell T Davies over the times that he's been involved with it, going, and the Doctor faces his greatest danger from the future or whatnot, and it's like, I don't care about that anymore. All I care about is just some good stories. I wouldn't even care if there was a big bad or not at the end of the season. I just want to have great stories with great monsters. That's it. We don't need to have a big arc throughout the season.
Right. Everything's overarching now.
Yeah.
So what about this as a question? Since this is our topic of the night and we are going everywhere with it, I'll spin it on its head then, folks. Whether it's Disney money or whether it's becoming modernized, Americanized, or whatever, we've talked about resting the show. We've talked about, they're eating each other at the moment, the same writers and all the rest of it. Did Doctor Who need Disney? Does it need the Americanization to keep it going? Because, honestly, you've got to think about it. If Disney had not come in after the Chibnall era, would we have had another season? There's your question. So actually, has Disney saved Doctor Who?
No. Depends on how close you believe the rumors of how close it was canceled after Power. I mean, we still have those rumors.
But we had the end of the 80s with the 7th Doctor era and it got cancelled, but Doctor Who came back. Doctor Who's such a fantastic concept. It always will come back. So if it got to a point where, it was Disney or bust, I would rather they rested it for a few years, because, my opinion is they've done a deal with the devil. and that's going to come back and bite them.
Mm.
But
Ouch.
again, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. It's about the writing and the scripts. If they are great, if the acting is great, if you're doing it for £50 an episode, like we've seen in the past, people are tuning into it. You know, you don't need all this money. You just need a sensible budget, and you need a sensible producer that is going to steward that show and that budget. But now it seems to be like, well, give it $50 million for an episode and you'll get a banger, but doesn't guarantee you a banger, does it?
So what I'll do is I'll go to timescales next on this one. I asked the question, do you think in some sort of way Disney is therefore extending Doctor Who's life at the moment? And I just want to link with that timescales, if you don't mind. So is Disney kind of saving Doctor Who from being rested? And Cliff Maxwell says he has a question to us also. If we can all balance the two, it'd be nice. How many here believe Doctor Who needs multi-part storytelling? So timescales first. Where do you stand on Disney, whether good or bad, is actually saving Doctor Who from having a rest, and what Cliff has just said?
Well, I think it's too soon to tell because we haven't seen the next season yet, and I hope that Disney is going to be beneficial for the long term of Doctor Who, and I also hope at the same time that they don't destroy it. Now, John said something earlier that really has had me sitting here thinking, has Doctor Who ever had an American writer of a TV story? I do not know. And I think that Doctor Who needs British writers, not American writers. I think it needs British writers who were raised in Britain and understand British culture, because Doctor Who is a British television program. Now, as far as, so if anybody knows if there's ever been an American writer that's written a Doctor Who TV story, I'd like to know, because I don't know. I don't think that there may have been. But as far as Disney saving it, I think I have a glimmer of hope that Disney will bring it to a large enough audience for it to remain viable, to stay on year after year. You know, I'd like to see 26 episodes per year. But, you know, if all we're going to get is 8, well, okay, I'm happy with that. At least it's 8 and not 0.
So timescales. Sorry,
Go ahead.
timescales.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Ask you. So with that in mind, 8 episodes, does it need a multi-part storytelling within that?
Well, it definitely leaves room for it. And it leaves room for spin-offs as well. If there's only 8 episodes of Doctor Who proper, there could be 8 episodes of something else, like a Paul McGann Doctor spin-off, or any Doctor by generation version. So I'm hopeful. I'm holding out hope. I want to see these 8 episodes that where it, you know, yes, I'll finally admit it. I think Disney does really have a little bit of concerning control over it now. I didn't think that 2 weeks ago. I thought they just bought streaming rights. But I'm hopeful that Disney is beneficial to Doctor Who. And, you know, honestly, I hope they don't destroy it.
Okay, Brandon, 2 questions, aren't there? In a way, is Disney kind of saving it, and this multi-part storytelling idea?
Okay, I can answer all those. If metaphorically, do they need Disney? No, not at all. Financially, probably, I don't know. Maybe they got into a situation after so many people would stop watching during Jodie, where it was like, look, you either get us RTD and maybe hook us up with some Disney dollars, or it's a done for a while. It's on the shelf. Maybe, who knows? But and then as far as multi-part stories, yes, we need to go to multi-part. I like the old, only multi-part I want is like the old serialized format. If it takes multi-parts to tell one serialized story, and then maybe get away from the overarching big bads for 2 or 3 years or longer. Just kind of chill. Or if you're going to have like a big bad, maybe a little mini arc inside of a season. And last thing I was going to say was something, I would go for, like, say, and if instead of just having Doctor Who and 5 other shows, do Doctor Who and then do like a Doctor Who anthology. So maybe you do 4 episodes about the Master and 3 about Unit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd do something like that. But I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen with.
Yeah. Now, Cinnamon, you mentioned, well, there has been Andrew Cartmel wasn't British, was he? And look what happened there.
The master plan.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Which
that.
was what?
But was he, again, that's the thing, because even if he was from another country, if he grew up here, then, it's the same thing with Shooty. Rwandan born, grew up in this country. And I suppose that's, we always talk, would they ever have an American actor play the Doctor? Or would, and I don't think that'd be good, because I think, not because I don't think an American actor can be the Doctor, I just think it shouldn't be. Because I think, I think at the very least it should be in-house. I think it's, like we say, it's a bit short. I think at the very least the main actor or the main lead should be British. But again, it's not. Sorry, what was the actual original question?
Yep, saving Doctor Who. Is Disney really? Because it could have been rested. Chris Chibnall had crashed it right down to 2 million viewers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Michelle was right. Actually, we did hear those rumors, didn't we, that it was going to end in a potential cliffhanger, and we wouldn't see what happened next.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was actually how genuine that was, I guess, remains to be seen. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a very hypothetical question, really. We wouldn't know. But, I think I would like to think they would have an answer. I can't imagine they would be that unprofessional and that, because I imagine these things, everything's planned, if not months, years in advance. So I would be very surprised if we really got to that point, if we literally got to the end and right, nobody else is here. I mean, again, maybe this is why Russell is back. Maybe the fact they didn't have anybody else and they have to go, can you do it, please? And then of course, I suppose he went. I think it's conflicted because he says he went to there, and there's a lot of different people saying whatever. But I get the general idea that he came back for this to propose this idea of writing one more episode, and they probably went, "Oh, can you do more, please? Can you come back properly?" And maybe that is then extended from that. And of course, I'd imagine when whoever brought it up, whether it was BBC who brought it up or it was Russell, whoever suggested the idea of Bad Wolf Studios doing that, I imagine BBC were very more than happy to take the strain off, to take the load, and let somebody else let it be somebody else's problem.
And just while we mentioned this, you mentioned the word specials, etc., and that's maybe why RTD came back on Tuesday at 4 p.m. We are looking at, was this the special of all of them, really? The Power of the Doctor. Was it just what the Doctor needed? Was it Jodie's best story? We're going to look at that on Tuesday at 4. So do join us, because we want a fresh take on it. And I have to say, in retrospect, I sometimes wonder, is that the most special out of the specials we actually had? So going to Terry, do you think in the end the Disney money is saving Doctor Who from the scrapyard for a while? Although I'm not knocking that, because in another way, when we had the gap between 89 and 96, look what came back. It was a really good Doctor Who movie. Maybe a rest would have been good.
Well, yes, I think the Disney money kept the series going. I'm not going to say they kept it alive. They've got content. They don't care about product. They care about content. So they want something to fill their shelves, whether it's good or not. They do not care.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
I think after Chris Chibnall, I think the BBC went to Russell T Davies and hoped, obviously, that he would take it on. And if he said no, then they would have gone to Stephen Moffat. And if he'd said no, that would have been it. They would have pulled the series. No doubt about that at all.
And are you glad they came in then?
Well, yes and no, really. I mean, at least the show is still going. I mean, that's the one main thing. It's an old show and it's going on for 60 years. And, how many shows can you actually say that about, really? So in a way, but Disney are just keeping it ticking over, I think, for a couple of years. And if they pull out, it's very possible that the BB or Russell T Davies pulls out. They'll ask Stephen Moffat, and if he says no, that's it. Series is gone.
Yeah, I partly think so. John, for good or bad, would you? I mean, it may have rested. Do you think Disney did actually have that saving Mayday?
Well, the proof will be in the series, really, on whether that is the case or not. If it carries on, not being great, and there's a lot of controversy around it, then the answer to that will be no. But if it's a knockout success, then the answer is yes. Disney's involvement has saved it. But again, as I said a few minutes ago, it's a deal with the devil. For how long? Because Disney execs, they will keep coming and they will keep saying, we want this change, we want that change, we want this, we want that. And next thing you know, it's like that broom from Fools and Horses, isn't it? That Trigger had, where you keep changing the heads, and sooner or later you keep saying it's the same thing, but it's completely different. So I think we'll get to that. And I hope I'm wrong.
Life support, as a JWC review says. Michelle, your thoughts?
I we'll see. And deal, I don't have it. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about this to a certain degree because, everything. No guarantee it's coming back. There's no guarantee ever it would have rested after Power that it would have come back. I think the proof's going to be in the pudding. We're just going to wait and see. I wish it was in a more firmer position because, again, I want Who to succeed. I want Who to do well, because if it wasn't for Who, I wouldn't be meeting all you lovely gents, and and I would probably be a little bit more richer. But then again, I find something else to spend my money on. Cinnamon's like, oh yes, yes, Cinnamon, yes. Again,
I'm used to the praise.
I hope it does well.
So just before we just about conclude, I started this at the beginning. It helped answer hopefully Brandon's question, but there were a few things here where when I was trying to answer my own question, when I go down, say, the first column, my concerns in a negative way about Americanization, if that's the answer, is how I saw the tone of the show had changed, and it looked as though it would be more simplified, it seemed to me. I am worried about the message. Now, the message isn't Disney's fault, and the message isn't America's fault, but it is those liberal countries who are steamingly obsessed with this agenda, and I'm worried about the agenda being the plot almost. So that's one area there. That's not blaming America, actually, although it might have originated in California, timescales.
It's all coming to reveal tonight, isn't it?
I think this was a pan-Atlantic endeavor. This was both countries, I think.
So, I mean, when I go down that list, I'm thinking, well, where were the problems? I think in a funny sort of way, we've mentioned the merchandise, the commercialization that might come into Doctor Who, and that might mean people start to make their own decisions, as a few of you have already hinted at. Cinnamon, what did you want to say? I'll put that big screen while you talk.
I think I was just going to say that it depends on each category, really. So if I was just looking at that one there, costumes and props, I would say in that department alone, I would say Disney has improved it because, again, with the extra money, not that we needed the money, but Doctor Who doesn't need a big, huge, beautiful budget, but it is nice to have it. So with things like costume and props, and when we looked at the trailer, my biggest takeaway from the trailer is that it looks pretty. And again, maybe this ties in with the Americanisms of it. It looks very stunning. It looks all big and beautiful. But there wasn't too much character moments. And when I did my video analyzing it, I mentioned the fact that that there was, at least in the 60th, you had that scene, didn't you, where the Doctor was saying to Donna, "I'm not sure if I can save your life this time." And that you watch that and you go, "Oh God." I mean, what's that scene where the Doctor promising Ruby's foster mother that he would look after, which you would think the Doctor by this point would stop making promises like that. I mean, he lost Rory after promising his dad, but we've been there before. But
that's okay.
Category because you've got you look at ones like costume and props. I think that there'll be benefit of Disney there with the extra money. I think when you want to, if you're worried about the involvement of Disney, I think that will come into more of the, I suppose, maybe the characterization, maybe stuff that they'll want to pass notes on. They're looking at the formula of other Disney products and other Disney shows.
Yeah.
Because again,
Can
they'll look at.
Cinnamon,
ahead.
can I just say that with looking at that list, the two I have the biggest problems with now I've been thinking about it, and I'll just put it up there, is on the right-hand side, the death count and level of jeopardy, because I do think Doctor Who is famous for behind the sofa, so you need to get fear and scares back into Doctor Who. And death count might fall into that. I mean, sci-fi, you can do amazing deaths without being graphic, of course you can, but the other one just 4 down that really does bother me, and the trailer does lead into this, and we did mention it a little bit, is how the TARDIS is presented. I don't want it to be R2D2. I don't want it skateboarding in Wild Blue Yonder. I don't want it doing a space shuttle landing. I don't want it being so massive but blooming useless. I mean, I was willing to go with this TARDIS interior, but it's actually called spending money for the sake of it. And yet it looks like a vast hammer, and it's a blooming waste, really. Yeah. And as some people said in a thread ages ago, the McGann TARDIS was so much better and so much more atmospheric.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the TARDIS and the level of jeopardy. There's my answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to say as well, you know, when you've got a Type 40 TARDIS that can travel in time and space, bigger on the inside than on the outside, do you really have to have a scene where it has a wheelchair ramp? Surely a Type 40 TARDIS can figure a way to get someone in a wheelchair into it, just like K9 had no problem getting into it back in the 70s. So it's silly things like that for me that just take me out of a story, because it's like you're just pushing this now. We don't need to know about that. We know they can get in the TARDIS. You know, it's silly, but hey, that's the way it's going, isn't it?
Any other final thoughts from anybody? I'll start with Michelle, because it looks as though it's done it that way now. Michelle?
You know what? I think we've really covered everything marvelous on this one. So there's pros and cons to all of this. So only time will tell.
And I'm guessing, Michelle, we're going to mention this again and again.
Oh yeah, this will also be really great to have a follow up at the end of the season to talk about what we got right, what we got wrong. You know, some of our predictions.
Oh yeah, this is going to come a lot. You guys are right.
Should come back to like a year or two in time and see what was right and what we got wrong. And
this discussion may not age well.
Hopefully it doesn't age well. I would love it to not age well.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
So timescales, any final thoughts on our big question was, is the American impact on Doctor Who, if it is an American impact, good or bad? And is there anything we haven't mentioned there that you do think worthy of?
As long as the show continues, anything is good to keep that happening. And I just hope that it remains as authentic British as where it came from. And that's really all I have to add. Brendan, I think you did an excellent job today on this show. This is a fantastic panel, and I really enjoyed being on here with you guys. Good job, Brendan.
Well, I think the thread have really enjoyed the discussion, and that's all down to the whole panel here, because we've got such a diversity of interest, and I'm hoping I'm getting everybody in. That's the only concern I've got when there's 8 of us. Brandon, your final thoughts. Have I missed out anything, Brandon, regarding, this situation with the impact of American, conglomerates? Is there anything I've missed out, or we've missed out in the debate, that you think we just need to mention before we finish?
Not that I can think of at the moment. Shout out to everybody in the chat, guys. I think there's quite a few people watching there. Still are, actually. So everybody hit like, subscribe, share, and all that stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the Scent Sphere. I think we covered it pretty good. But when you guys were saying that about, I think this discussion is probably going to be endemic. I mean, like it's going to come up again and again, I believe, with discussing each episode, I bet. But I'm looking forward to it. That's a good thing about it, being around and having people to talk to about it. You know what I mean? It's not all a negative thing.
Well, how about
John,
this? I'll get this for nothing. If we start seeing the doctor say hello ha or whatever, or hey y'all, or instead of the grinding noise that the TARDIS makes when it dematerializes and Star Spangled Banner,
it's y'all.
Drinking Tennessee whiskey.
You see, there's plenty in the thread who are agreeing with me on this TARDIS interior, Lark. I just think it's a misstep there. Big budget, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not feeling it. It's got lots of ramps and everything. I don't mean for disabled. It's got just lots of ramps, and I don't know how they're going to use it. It's not like the William Hartnell TARDIS interior, and that's a shame. With all that money, and as Cliff Maxwell has just said, go back to the Sidney Newman concept of the program, and hopefully we obviously hint at the time machine. I'm just going to dive around. John, final thoughts. Anything we haven't mentioned that you're shocked by? I know you make notes.
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered it all tonight, but I'll just echo what Timescale said. It's been a great panel tonight. So, and well done, Brendan. It's been great, and thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, it's nice to have a good natter with Doctor Who people on here. It's great.
Yeah, and I have to say the panel's done this. You know, the Sensory is just a name. What we started because we want to bring fandom together if we can. We do want to say you can have a disagreement, you can have a debate without getting nasty, you can have a debate without falling out. That's the whole point. And you got the idea when you watch Twitter and everything that things are starting to get nasty. Whether you're a Jodie Whittaker fan, a Chibnall fan, or anything, you know, come on, we love the program. Passion should bring us back together again. And I think the panel tonight, you've all been brilliant because you've all stuck with it. You've all been open-minded to it. And that's the point of great debate. Jeremy, your final thoughts. Is there anything I've missed out?
No, I can't think of anything. I was just thinking that perhaps maybe the next series, if Disney do an extra year, they might insist that a few of the stories are actually made in America. That might be quite interesting.
Yeah.
True. Terry, any final thoughts?
Just thank you for being here. And yeah, I'm worried about what Disney's going to do. I really am.
Will it be a film? A movie?
Books will be written on this period of time.
Now, the musical, the Disney.
Weeping Angels, the musical. Yeah.
Okay. No.
Now, you know, because
it's
we're all
coming soon.
Because we're all Doctor Who fans, and we all love anything to do with Doctor Who, and we're all mugs, really. We're always putting money into, you know, the same old pot, aren't we? Is anybody on my last little tiny item? Is anyone doing this? Is anyone buying this merchandise wise? The Doctor Who 4 issues from Titan Comics. There it is. It's a 4-part series. Doctor Who with the Cybermen. Does that grab anybody's eye?
They're doing.
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll pick that up for sure.
I'll buy it. Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yep.
Yeah,
and there's supposed to be a free comic book day in May 4th. There's supposed to be a free and the artwork and everything. Type 40 was discussing part of it, and it actually looked pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm down with that.
Yeah, because I'm not a comics book fan myself, so I'm not the person to ask, so I'll keep out of it. But I know some of you are. Brandon, you sound as though you're going for it, are you?
Yeah, I've got a couple things from them pre-ordered. I wish I could remember what they were. A couple of them. One I think is like a special or something, but it's been delayed forever. And then I think I've got like a comic annual or something pre-ordered. But this I didn't know about. I don't keep up with the comics like I did as good when I was young. I didn't know about this, but I'll probably read it.
Cool. Anybody else thinks they've got a bit of a jingle in their pocket, they've got a bit of money spare, and they're going to order it?
I would also add to that if you want to get into comic books and you really want to enjoy it, go back and look at some of the original runs, you know, from the 70s and 80s, because there is some fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I just reread all that stuff, man. Yeah. It's so great. And what he was just holding up, what Toast was holding up, that was one of the things I was talking about that I had pre-ordered, whatever it was.
And I'm just going to shout out Emperor of the Daleks. Give that one a go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have to say, some of the illustrations now, Cinnamon, keep it there, because I just need to go and get the right. Okay, Cinnamon, do it again, please, because I missed it.
I think, it flips the image. I'm not sure if you can actually read that. Yeah, it's the Liberation.
Is it an annual?
So the Doctor Who magazine. It's more like the graphic novels, but the Doctor Who magazine in each issue for about 13 issues, so literally about the whole year. Every part was for every issue, every month. Which I thought, well, you could get it that way, but I thought, well, that's 13 issues that you would then have to read to watch it,
Oh yeah, it collects
read it
the first.
coherently. So
yeah.
I just got that.
Yeah, I've
So
got that.
it's basically just the entire story.
If you haven't read that yet, that is an
Still yet to read
absolutely
it, though.
excellent comic series right there. I've been reading it in the Doctor Who magazine.
Seeing as we're talking comic books, bear with me. I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll
And
do it.
speaking
We'll
of
do a
comics,
musical
I-
sequence. Like
You better
Friends.
come back
Not
to your
comic
clothes.
book
I would
related,
highly
but I did
suggest-
get the daily devotional or
Oh,
the
cool,
Doctor
cool.
Who yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
You
Go
want
on,
to get
what-
that? All
so
the
time
Cybermen
scales. What were you
Yeah,
going to say? Time scales, and I'll
Speaking
make
of
John go
comics,
large. There you go.
a very experienced Doctor Who comic book author is Eddie Robson. Do a wiki on Eddie Robson and check out any of his comic stories. So many of those could be made into an awesome television show.
It looks as though we're doing lots of advertising here. Time scales. It,
Like,
Oh, we're gonna get back
it looks
up
as though we
again.
need to do it. Now, it would be off. Oh, here we go. Terry's on his way now. You see, Terry's. Let's have a look.
Oh, cool.
It's the
Yeah.
battle of who's got what now.
That's great.
No. This is the same thing as mine's bigger than yours.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not near my bookshelf
Well,
now.
boys, overcompensating for something.
Cinnamon, we were doing that before the stream
Yeah, we need
started. He's got the
to-
best microphone.
this is
It's like Christmas Day, isn't it?
Oh, honestly,
No.
I feel as though I'm the parent and everybody's waving their toys, and I'm trying to get you all.
You're
in.
back in school again with show and tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
All of
that-
that stuff. Yeah.
Right. So, which one's that, Cinnamon?
Quite
I
rare,
can't-
this apparently. I've
Oh.
since
Yes, they are.
Apparently
It's
this
hard
Oh,
for you to get
don't
them.
about-
smatten
it's
you
quite
anyway.
rare.
I've got them all down there, and people want to have a life. So yes, they've all down there. Right. Okay. Due courtesy and everybody, that was a fantastic. I loved that. I said this last Sunday. I really enjoy these debates, and we've had some lovely mentions in the thread. I mean, I'm going to say Type 40. Type 40, as somebody was saying earlier, they're the masters. Type 40, I want to emulate. I'll never get there. They are so good. However, we will try to be moderate, open-minded, and fun. So, timescales, to be fair, do you want to advertise where you are and where we can find you?
Okay, sure. Real briefly, thetimescales.com. It is the world's largest Big Finish and Doctor Who review community, and you can go and read the reviews and ratings of other people combined and hopefully find something that you will enjoy. And then I have a YouTube channel as well, which is the Timescales, where I enjoy interviewing people in arts and performing arts. And just this morning, a new interview came out with a young author, Ben Teds, who wrote one of the Big Finish stories, which is coming out next week. And that dropped at 8 o'clock this morning. And there's about 75 interviews on there, which are studying the shared traits of people in arts and performing arts. And it's very heavy on Doctor Who. So thanks again for having me on, Brendan.
Yeah, and there is an interview with me. He kind of fitted me in,
Yes.
amazingly enough. But the thing is, I've put in the description for our YouTube channel for this program. It's got you at timescales. So I've got you advertised as well. Brandon,
Thank you.
give yourself a call out as well, and you're also in my description.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, just click the link. It's at Culture Pop on YouTube. Click the link in the description and subscribe. We do a show every Saturday. My dog's right here. She's she's ready to go outside. But we do a show every Saturday called Culture Council, and we are going to be reviewing every episode of the new X-Men cartoon. And so just come and see where we did episode 1 and 2 yesterday, and we're going to do 3 next Saturday. And then after that, we talk about other stuff.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get back on as well.
Yeah, you're going to be back on there. Yeah, I don't know if you're interested in X-Men cartoon right now, but yeah, we'll definitely. I want you to be back on. We had a lot of fun when you were on, and that was the most behaved I'd ever been on the show.
Oh, you don't need to. I'm not a teacher anymore. Cinnamon, can you give a call out to your channel then?
Mine's at Culture Pop on YouTube.
Fucking time.
Oh, you're talking about him. Duh. I was like, shit, I just said it, you know? Okay. My bad. Too many Brandon.
Let's get another plug in.
So Cinnamon, everyone's got their own channel here. My God, talk about comparing channels. Go on, Cinnamon.
Yeah, it's all about me. Yes, so you can find my channel. There you go. We did a video yesterday with Noel from the Tardis Zone, basically doing what everybody else is practically doing, and breaking down the trailer. In fact, I even joked about it, didn't I, yesterday, that I was going to do I did a breakdown here on your channel, and then I did it on mine.
Yeah,
But I was
you had a
wiped out by
breakdown.
the
You had a breakdown
So
there.
if you want to check that out, it's doing all right actually. You know, for a channel my size, you know, it's getting steady numbers. I think, I would say so.
Good.
Thanks for everyone who's checked it out, and if that's what you want to do, then.
And this is the other
check it
thing
out
about
again.
this community.
What?
I wouldn't be anywhere. Everyone on here has helped this channel start, has helped this channel grow. I really appreciate all the support from Timescales, Brandon, Cinnamon, yourself, John. You've been on from the, Jeremy, you've been with us on the Sunday nights going all the way through. Terry, we've been talking for ages, and you come on. You're a John Pertwee fan. Michelle's one of our original panelists. You can't grow a channel, as the content creators know, without people willing to give you time with the information, with the fun, and with some of the, great ideas. So I love this collaboration. I think it's great. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So I'm Terry, you also do your films, don't you?
Yes, I do. I put out a weekly Doctor Who video on TARDIS Spider. I hope they're good. I throw a few other things in there. I cover the cosplay in the area and our local events. And I plug for books for children. 70% of inner city homes do not have a library. So give a child a book today, please.
Yeah. As an English teacher, I will totally agree with that, Terry. Big time. Jeremy, have you got a channel that you haven't told me about?
No.
The thing with Jeremy is he's got K9 and he's got all those Cybermen heads, and you've got the Dalek gun that you showed us last week. You've got
and Easter eggs.
Yeah, he's got props.
A very old Easter egg. No, I'm still busy with.
I'll try it on stream one day. 17-year-old Easter egg.
I'm still working on K9 at the moment, but it's very cold outside. So
I'm dying to see this K9 when it's finished. If you follow, shout out to your Twitter profile, because people can see you put photographs up of how you're going with K9. How can they find you, Jeremy?
I'm trying to think what my profile is now.
Is it JW 1960?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on TARDIS, on Twitter.
JW, yeah, JW 1963. That's where you'll find him, and he often posts, don't you, photographs of how you're getting on with the K9.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he's gonna. Look, I don't know if you've promised me, but I want him on the show one day just to see him when he's finished.
We'll do that when I've finished with him.
Yeah,
I've sorted him out.
And I'll do that ridiculous content creation nonsense. I'll say exclusive to the Sensory. But
I shall say admitted faster.
John, I know you might be doing content creation at the moment. You're happy getting on loads of panels and just having fun, aren't you?
Yeah, having a great time. I enjoy being on the Brilliant Sensphere. When I'm not on here, I'm on the Brilliant Type 40.
Yeah.
But as for content, just all I'll say is watch this space. So
what's this? It's a cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger. And Michelle, you not just Doctor Who, but you do other things. Where can people find you?
I am Michelle Hamilton on Facebook. I'm also has the TARDIS Archives, which is my Doctor Who Facebook group, our page, and then also in my other writing life is Michelle L. Hamilton Author on Facebook, and on Twitter I'm at HistoryWiz1.
Magic. You see, what a panel. Aren't I lucky? And aren't you lucky to have these people tonight? Thank you for sticking with us. Not just the panel, but the people who've been watching us. Please join us again. I won't put all the stuff up, but Tuesday at 4 p.m, The Power of the Doctor. We review shows in a different way. We have criteria, which we argue about, but we have criteria and we debate like hell whether the program is acceptable, outstanding, needs improvement. Join us because we don't meander. We really are rigid with it. Thank you, panel. I will not indulge anymore. It's been fantastic. If you want to say goodbye, and I'll start the good old tunnel.
See ya. Good show.
Get off.
Bye, everybody.
Get off.
Good night.
There you go.
Good night. Adios.
Later.